that's what it is, y'all can do a lot better, I'll tell you that.
And is assisted by staff of the Community and Economic Development Department and the City Attorney's Office. The first meeting comprises the Historic Preservation Board agenda, where business of the board is handled, including recommendations of new historic designations. The second meeting consists of the Design Review Committee agenda and involves acting on recommendations from staff regarding certificate of review applications for major work proposed to properties within the historic districts or local landmark buildings. The Design Review Committee is a standing subcommittee of the Historic Preservation Board. Public input is welcomed for items on the Design Review Committee's agenda, and we invite everyone who wishes to participate to be heard. We ask that all speakers come up to the central podium, state their name and address for the record, and be concise in their comments. Thank you for your interest and participation. Please silence all mobile devices at this time. And with that, I will turn the meeting over to our board chair, Mr. John White.
Thank you, Emily. I'd like to call to order the June 23rd Historic Preservation Board meeting, and we'll start with the roll call. John White, present. Lynn Dennis, absent. Landis Fleming?
Here.
Dan Fowler?
Present.
Jeremy Moses?
Here.
Christopher Olson?
Present.
Cesar Perez? Absent now. Melinda Rinker?
Here.
And Michelle Sylvester?
Here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum, and so we'll get started with the agenda. We have a very heavy agenda today for our second meeting, but there are some items to come up in the Preservation Board meeting. We have before us the May 26, 2022 Historic Preservation Board meeting minutes. Does anyone have any corrections or additions to the minutes? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. We have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes of the May 22nd meeting of the board. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you so much. We have begun the effort at the Phase 1 Historic Districts Resurvey Project, and Emily, I believe you're going to give us an update.
Yeah, just a brief update. We sent out the RFP in May to solicit for consultants to do the resurvey work. We did receive 4 responses back. So next week, the selection committee will meet to select the consultant for this project, and we've asked John White as HPB chair, Lynn Dennis as DRC chair, Jim Edwards, who actually participated in the original survey of the South and East Lake Morton historic districts. We've asked him to be on that committee as well, along with 2 staff members. So I will fill you in once we select a consultant to move forward.
All right. Thank you. We also have the Munn Park Committee meeting to be held immediately following the Historic Preservation Board annual review today. So that committee members would please remain after our yearly review, and we'll have that committee meet. We have before us also a request to appeal the decision of the DRC on a matter at 612 West Patterson. That's HPB number 22-067. I'd like to start, Jared, if you would swear in anybody who might speak to this issue.
Well, Mr. Chair, we could probably go ahead and swear everyone in at once if that's okay.
That's fine.
If you plan on speaking to the board today, if you could please stand, if you're able to stand, and raise your right hand. I'm going to administer the oath. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. We have an appeal of the Design Review Committee meeting decision that denied certain exterior renovations or alterations made to the house on 612 West Patterson Street. The property owner, Mr. Max Brodeen, and the appellants are Mr. Grant Barlow and Mr. Max Brodeen. Emily, did you need to make comment before they start?
Yeah, I'll just summarize the case and the decision, but first we should ask for any conflicts.
Yes. Do we have any conflicts on the board in interest to this particular property, 612 West Patterson Street? No. I see none. If you give us a summary of the Design Review Committee denial, please.
Alrighty. So again, just to recap, the subject property contains a 2-story single-family house built circa 1925 in the frame vernacular architectural style, which is a contributing building in the Dixieland Historic District. During a total renovation of this house from 2020 to 2022, building permits were issued and certificates of review that administratively granted several alterations. The original request involved changes that were made as part of the renovation but were not specified in the building permit and therefore did not receive a certificate of review. These alterations included, number 1, the removal of a pair of 9-light French doors on the front facade. Number 2, the relocation of the front door opening and installation of a new front door and side light. And number 3, the addition of wooden headers and shutters on the front facade second-story windows. And this image shows the home in January of 2019 prior to the renovations.
Can I also comment that we said something about the sign in the front yard as well?
Yes, and I'll cover that in a second. At the April 28, 2022 Design Review Committee meeting, staff found the request to be inconsistent with the Secretary's standards for rehabilitation and the city's design guidelines for historic properties and recommended denial of the request. And on that same date, the Design Review Committee voted unanimously to deny the request with the following actions to be taken. Number 1, removal of the decorative window shutters and headers. Number 2, restoration of the original front door opening and French doors door opening, with the exception that the new craftsman style door may be used in the original location of the front door. And number 3, removal of the address sign from the front yard.
Okay. We'll ask the applicant to come forward, if you will, and present your support of the request.
May I actually ask a very quick question? Page 1 and 2 and 3, that's the original of what was denied, or what's in here, or is this new, what's being requested?
No, that is the staff report that was presented to you back in April. So that is not new information.
I'm looking going, wait a minute.
It was just to refresh your memory.
Refresh. Okay, thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
My name is Grant Barlow. I work for a company that purchased this home and renovated it, and I am working with Max Brodeen, who's the owner, who is really, I guess, heading up the requests for the denial on this. You know, to start off, when we bought this property, it did look like the picture that she shows right there on the left-hand side in 2019. And when we assessed this project with our contractors, we immediately decided that what had been done to it up to the point in 2019 really didn't fit the neighborhood that well. Especially, you can see like the pointed stuccoed kind of skirt along that exterior, And it really didn't feel like a 1925 built home, which is really what we wanted to go for. It really feels, it's kind of a mismatched home. And so we were kind of tasked with, what our goal was with originally was we need to bring back some of that historic, 1925 feel to this property, especially with that stucco skirt along the exterior. And something I'd like to do, if possible, just scan over to the next door neighbor's house on Google Maps and show you what the next door neighbor house looks like. And it was also built circa the same time. So just give me 1 second here. Just put that up there in the camera, and then just scroll. It's actually a slide. It's like a tablet. So there's the Google Maps view, and then she can you can just slide to the left there, and you can see the neighbor house right there, and you can see the porch that they have on that property. You're probably better off going back in front of our house. There, and scrolling over. You can see that porch. That would be like a very traditional 1925 built home with the porch like that. And so at some point they did a couple of major things that would be a no-no to a 1925 built historic home on our home, is they stuccoed the exterior of the porch. They added kind of those pointed arches, which isn't the best. And then they also, circa probably late 1950s to 1960s, they added asbestos siding around the entire exterior of our home, which was probably beautiful wood, shiplap siding. So that's kind of what we inherited, and our goal on it was to get it back to kind of feeling a little bit more like a 1925 built home. And in our efforts in doing that, I think that's really what Max, the owner, fell in love with, is kind of that historic feel, and that's really what he wanted in the property. And I think that's the big reason why I wish he was here. He had to travel. He's taking his daughter to go visit some colleges in California. But he really wanted to have that historic looking home, and that's one of the main reasons why he really just is not too keen on reverting back to that asbestos siding with the stucco combination, and wanted to have a little bit more of a bring us back a few years. So if I could I switch over to a quick slide presentation on that?
Or the porch, like points or anything. Mm-hmm.
On the slide, you can tap it and it'll go forward, or you can slide, go backwards. So this is the presentation that Max put together and asked me to go through with you guys. If you just tap onto the next slide. And again, he just summarizes exactly what has already been summarized, what we appealed for, and what was denied on the last meeting. And it goes through each one. You have the shutters on the window and the headers. We've got the relocation of the front door, which that one is a very interesting case because you have a single man door, and right next to it you had a French door. And when we bought the home, it was listed as Unit AB on Zillow, and the previous owner had walled off a section of it and was using it as kind of an illegal duplex. And so those front doors were two different entrances into two different units in the home. And so we removed the single man door and opened the wall that was filled in to close it off in order to convert that house back to just a single unit home like it was built, like it was meant to be. And so that case in particular is I think, more historically accurate the way that we have it right now. The front door that we have there, there was a French door that was kind of falling apart. It wouldn't latch. You couldn't secure it from the inside. It was just kind of rotted on the inside. And so we did replace that with, what we tried to do was another French door. However, the French door that we purchased would not fit, and we couldn't figure out a way to cut it down and make the panels fit. And so then we went to a door with 2 side lights, and the 2 side lights, we couldn't get those to fit either. So we ended up with this single door with a single side light, and that was the only door that we could get to fit into that space. I think that the original French door that was there, I believe it was the original front door in 1925, and I believe that it just isn't made in those sizes anymore. And it was a pretty unique, glass. It was a pretty cool front door, but it was rotted and falling apart. The glass was janky and sliding around, and the wood was all rotted and it wouldn't latch. So, and then the wooden sign in the front yard as well. I know that one's a little bit out there, but we needed something to kind of match it up. So, could you go on to the next slide? So there's the home there. There's what we did to it. You saw what it looked like in 2019. We wanted to keep the white. We wanted to make it look, even though it's not wood siding anymore, kind of give it that 1925 kind of, we're fairly confident that's the color it would have been painted in 1925. The wood shutters and the headers up above, we felt like matched it more closely to the other homes that were built in 1925. Versus trying to match it up with this kind of mismatched, asbestos siding, stucco, mismatched home that had been kind of morphed and created over the life of the home. Go on to the next one. This house right here is just down the street from us on 544 West Park. This one is built in I believe it's the 70s. But it was just renovated this last year. You can see the wood fence. I wish I had a picture of what it looked like before, but it didn't have the decorative stained wood fence off to the left. It didn't have the wood shutters like that. It didn't have the flower boxes underneath, and it didn't have the mailbox with the stained wood underneath it. So that is another home that's just around the corner. It's one street up from us and just a couple blocks. And so, these are the types of homes that we're looking at as we're driving, trying to figure out how to make it better fit into the neighborhood. Go on to the next one. This is another example. This one is a 1925 built home. It might be 1928, I can't remember. It was also recently renovated. Those pillars did not look like that in 1925. But I feel like they did a good job with it. It's right there, just a few houses down from us on Patterson, and they do have those wood stained pillars, and they did renovate that one completely within the last couple of years. So on to the next one. This is another house that's just right there by us. I think he threw this in just to show kind of what some of the other homes right there by us look like and how much better, I guess, our house looks than that one. I think that was kind of the purpose there. So this one is very unique. It is an old home. I believe it was built it was pre-1930, so it's in the 1920s. If you look at the Google Maps view of this house, you'll see plywood. And what you're looking at right there used to be kind of a garage, and it was a plywood covered garage. And you can see that they have since stuccoed the thing and added shutters on the windows and just completely renovated it. You can go on to the next one. This one, I think he just wanted to show other houses right close by that have shutters. We can go to the next one. 6 West Park, I think he's just showing another home that has shutters as well on it. So we can keep going. This one, I believe this one he wanted to show because of the shutters. There's one of them here that also has like a freestanding solar panel sitting in the front yard. It's just across the street from us, so, but let's keep going. Oh, this is it right here. So you can see the clutter in the front yard. You can also see the freestanding solar panel there. And, you know, from his perspective, from the homeowner's perspective, is he wants to know, you know, what's the, who approved these designs, you know, and in his eyes, his home is beautiful and historic, and these homes are not. All right, continue on. This home right here is a beautiful home. I love this house, and we really tried to draw inspiration from this house as best we could. A little bit different looking homes. Obviously, this is a single level home, but this home was built same year as us, or very similar, within a couple of years of us, and has been completely renovated and had some things added to it. And, you know, I'm sure this was approved by you guys, but obviously you can see the brick in the front with the cement pads on top of those bricks. That was not there in 1925. You can see the stained wood pillars going up. And then something that was really interesting is right at the peak of that home right there is almost like an Arizona flag design, where you have like this sun crest with these rays going out. My guess is they're transplant from Arizona. I'm from Arizona, so I know what the state flag looks like, and there is nothing historical about that design. So, all right, go to the next one. This is just another home that this one I believe is actually a brand new build that is just a couple blocks down from us. So, you can go. So in conclusion, you know, we just wanted to reiterate, we love the area. We're proud of the work that we did on it. We feel like we did the very best we could to kind of grab this mismatched home and kind of reinsert a little bit of history into it with the renovations that we added. We feel like if there's a more accurate representation of 1925 that you guys could suggest, I'm open to it, but we feel like we did the very best job we could to kind of bring it back and give it more of a 1925 feel, rather than leaving the asbestos siding without anything on it, you know, leaving it like a gray or a blue, and you know, we did what we could to give that kind of a historic feel, and we're proud of the work we did. We spent over $200,000 working on that property, and it's a beautiful home inside and out. I think that Max is a good member of the community. I think that you guys are going to appreciate him. He's the type of person that is going to run for a board like this. He's very involved. He's got one daughter that is about to be off to college, and he's going to have a lot of time on his hands. And I know that this is something that he was involved with in his previous community in Montana, and I know he plans on getting involved here. So I think that you guys will appreciate having him in the community in general, and he's going to be the type of homeowner that takes pride in Lakeland and adds to the community. So with that, that's really, I guess, the comments that I have. And I don't know, do I take questions, or is there?
I'll leave that to you.
We'll do that in just a moment. I'd like to first of all ask if there is any public comment for support or opposition to the request from the audience. Anyone else here to speak to this particular property? Seeing none. Questions and answers from the board.
I have a question. So if you're looking at the house to the left,
Mm-hmm.
the house directly to the left, it's
Yeah.
built at the same time period. It's a craftsman bungalow.
Mm-hmm.
Are you aware that there was more than one style of house built in the 1920s?
Absolutely.
Okay,
But
so the house that you're talking about is not a craftsman bungalow. It's a frame vernacular, which is a different style. So it doesn't necessarily have the same scale and architectural elements that a craftsman bungalow would have.
Right. No, and you're correct, but the home that we have also didn't have stucco. You know, I believe that when the, especially when the carport was originally built, it would have been built very similar.
Do you have photos showing the house?
We do not,
So it's all
and we'd love it if
functional.
you guys did. But, I mean, that was, obviously stucco was not used like that until, you know, late 70s, so.
So you're thinking there's the possibility that it used to have had a more bungalow appearance to the...
I believe the carport had wooden pillars, probably stained wooden pillars, if it was built in 1925. Now, if they added the carport on after the fact, which is totally possible, then it could have been done in 1970 and could have been stuccoed from the get-go. But I doubt it, especially with how that porch lays up. And if you scroll over and you look at the home right next to it, you'll see that even the porch steps leading up to the home resemble each other.
But,
Well, go ahead.
but the appeal isn't for the stucco, the appeal is for the shutters, the door, and the sign out front. Is that correct?
Right.
Stucco's irrelevant.
Right, and so our argument is with asbestos siding and stucco, if we were to remove all those touches, it no longer looks like a 1925 built home. It looks like a 1980 home. It's got asbestos siding and stucco. It doesn't, there's nothing, you know, historic about it when you remove those touches, and those touches are what blends it into the neighborhood and makes it feel historic. I mean, we're open to switching the colors or, you know, something like that if you guys would prefer, if you want a darker stain on it, but I feel like that is what gives it its historic appeal.
A lot of the examples you showed in his slideshow too are mid-century modern. They're nowhere near the style home that this is.
50s to 70s style,
Yeah.
which is again a totally different style than a 1920s.
Right.
The roof lines, you know, more simple structure, a lot of block. So totally different styles.
No, you're right.
Compare
You're
a
right.
1920s house to a 1970s. It's technically not even a contributing structure in the historic district. It's like comparing apples and elephants, like they're not even related.
No, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. I think that especially in the slide deck, there were a handful, but if you go and find any home in that area that was built in 1925, it's either falling down or we've blended to match it as close as we could. But take that aside, if we pull off those shutters, the header, take the wood sign out, it doesn't look like a 1925 built home. It looks like a 1950s piece together with a 1980s stuccoed garage that was added on after the fact.
If the goal is to make it look like a 1925 house, though, then you would remove the asbestos siding and put the correct siding up. And I understand
Absolutely.
that's
I
extremely
agree.
expensive. But if you really want to make it look like the original structure, then you have to, you know, remove the 80s features, like you
Oh,
mentioned.
I 100%
So I don't
agree with
think
you.
adding shutters and a header makes it more original looking. It just makes it look like 1980s with some Colorado accents.
I disagree with that. Now, I mean, I guess you could argue the type of shutter, but yeah, I disagree with that statement. I don't think it looks Colorado in the slightest. You know, I've been to Colorado many times. I don't think that looks like a Colorado home. I do believe that looks and feels more like, for example, the last home that we showed on the slide deck that has the really dark stains. I think it fits more into that 1920s era with those changes than anything else we could have done besides ripping the thing down and rebuilding it with the 1925 style. You know, tearing off the asbestos siding, which, you know, is extremely expensive, could be, that would be awesome, right? It's just obviously outside of our budget to do. You'd have to have a restoration come in, drop cloth down, or the plastic down, and remove that, and then we don't know what the wood looks like behind it, which is probably pretty old and not doing too well. And then as far as the stucco on the porch, I wouldn't even know where to start with that. I'd probably just rip the whole thing down and start over.
Yeah. The shutters are just out of scale for those windows. The windows are the element that identifies it, though, as a 1920s house. Those 4/1 windows are the kind that you would have seen in a house of that era.
What I find interesting, and okay, the way you have the front porch and whatnot now, there's no longer the steps that go into the portico area, correct?
The what, sorry?
No, they're there.
They're there.
The door is
they?
just
Yeah,
not in front of them.
those steps are still there. It's
Yes.
just a little hard to
Going to the right, where, like in front of where the car is?
Yes, yeah, they're still
Okay.
there. Yep.
They're dark, so they kind of blend.
Yeah, I couldn't quite tell. So, like, my question, I guess, is I'm wondering if this house even, had this front porch and whatnot area, because if you're putting that on, like if you have a driveway that you're gonna drive your car up beside the house, I mean, why would you put steps in the way of where your car is gonna go? And I realize you didn't do that, okay? So like, is this entire porch,
We're only here about the door and the.
Yeah, I would limit the.
But then you're going back to the door and the shutters and whatnot, and I'm wondering, like, okay, how much, what's original, what's not? Is the red door, was it even originally there? Because if you come up, that door is so oddly placed as it is.
Yeah, it's not centered up.
It's not centered up, which is what you would normally see. So if you came up and there was a wall and then the French doors are there to the right, that would make sense to go in through the French doors as, your normal entrance. The red door doesn't make sense to me.
Well, and it was being used as unit AB, and so that
makes sense as to why it may have been potentially put on. I mean, we're all working on assumption here.
Yeah.
If I was to assume, I would say the French doors were original. The red door opening was added. Well, but then the red door is actually centered below that little window.
In our April meeting, Emily, did we discuss, I think the consensus is that more than likely the original front door was closer in location to where the red door originally was, and that the French doors were more than likely added.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right on the red door. I believe an original
Location.
opening was there at one time, and the French doors were a secondary opening into like a living room, probably to provide
But the
access
main
to air.
entrance was,
But the main entrance, I believe, was near where the red door is.
Right.
It may not have been that actual opening. It may have been altered.
Yeah, because when you look at it, if you were to take the porch off, that red door is centered above, below the little window, which would have centered it more so.
sure, and if the applicant is also saying that the front porch has been changed significantly, then that opening there may have led straight to the front door. If, like you said, the front door is underneath the small window on the second floor. So at some point that those steps and the front could have shifted enough that it now puts the front door off its, and
And it could have been eccentric also.
Right.
Right.
But you're right, it seems like the single door is the way that was always the entrance to the 1920s house.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, very strong possibility. When we looked at it, we it could have gone either way. But very well could have been the case. So
The shutters and those headers look so beyond off and wrong for this.
do you think it's more the fact that they exist, or do you think it's the color?
Just everything about them is just wrong? And maybe it's the header. I don't know. They just.
So do you,
they
like,
just,
if you look at the house to the left right there, the way that it used to look, do you think that looks more historic, like more 1920s?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
And
I would
wash and paint and we're good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do away with the shutters and the header
Yeah, I
completely
would
and just be
disagree
done
with that
part.
wholeheartedly. I just think that, you know, when they threw on that asbestos siding, they could have easily removed shutters and a header when they did that.
Well, or they could have covered up the trim, which they did on my house when it was
Yeah.
slip covered.
Yeah, and that would have been in the 1960s probably.
Yeah, they left the original trim, they left the original windows. You may or may not have had shutters, but shutters are not of that scale because a shutter is normally on a house to be able to close and cover the window
Right.
in the event of a storm.
Right,
In this case, it's just decoration added to the 1920s house.
right.
Now, on the frame vernacular style, that'd be for you and John. Were there traditionally shutters on frame vernacular houses?
Not normally.
Not
They
normally.
were simple.
Unless it was up in Georgias and
Okay.
Carolinas. and
Right.
stuff like
So
that.
Florida frame vernacular shutters.
Yeah, unless you're talking really like, you know, early 19th century, you know, cracker style homes, but
So if you want to be historic, in Florida, there were no shutters on frame vernacular.
Right, but if we want to be historic, there wasn't stucco either, and there definitely wasn't those pointed designs. You know, the whole point of it is we were dealt a very complicated case, and we feel like we nailed it in trying to pull it back a few decades, right? I mean, we're trying to go backwards. We're not trying to make it. We don't want to continue to look like kind of this piece together, you know, 1960s combined with this 1980s stucco. We wanted to kind of give it a little bit more of a 1920s feel. That was the whole point of adding those
shutters
designs.
do
But
not
with-
do that.
Yeah,
in my
with the porch potentially being added, the garage potentially being added, the asbestos siding potentially being added, all you're doing is adding one more variable on what would have been historic without all that stuff.
Right.
So you're not changing the porch, you're not changing the garage, it's existing, we're fine with that. But you're adding more wrong to it to just try to make it look better. And so somebody in the future is going to come back and go, why did they put these shutters on?
Even the shutters are only on the top. There aren't any other shutters on the house, and if they're supposed to be functioning shutters,
Yeah.
theoretically, you want more than just your second floor windows protected from a storm.
Yeah, I think when we denied the request, we assumed that the shutters and the address sign were going to be a non-issue. It was denied with the idea that the applicant would go back and address the front door issue that we were having issues with.
Right.
And try to come up with some more creative solutions that would satisfy everyone.
And the presentation went over the shutters, or showing
Focused on
representation of shutters on
and the
other
denial
homes, but
was
it,
really focused on a
the
solution
door,
to the
right.
door.
Yeah, so
Is there any
the
more
front door
information?
issue was that, you know, when you walked into the man door on the left, right in front of you is the staircase. That very well could have been the original front door. It was placed, you know, theoretically it was placed properly, but it was walled off immediately on the right-hand side, which split the home into two different units.
makes sense.
Yeah, we had a floor plan and you had a room, you had the staircase right behind the door.
Yeah, so they were renting it out as Unit A and Unit B, and so when we came in there, we were like, well, obviously, we're not going to continue to make this an illegal duplex. We want to convert it back to a single-family home. And the door that made a lot more sense to keep was the larger door, and so that's where we placed our efforts, is trying to salvage that French door opening, and unfortunately, we just couldn't get a French door to fit in the opening.
So when you said you were trying to replace the French door opening with more French doors, at any point, I imagine it was just slightly more narrow, the new doors were slightly more narrow.
Yes.
Did you ever consider coming to the board and saying, hey, I've got an X-inch opening, standard doors are 6 inches more narrow, will you approve a 6-inch more narrow French door opening? Did you ever consider that?
I would have. To be totally honest, I wasn't that involved. You know, I'm getting this information after the fact. Franco Otero is the contractor that did the project. And he is one that's told me what he went through doing this, but you know, I thought he was reporting everything correctly. You know, we had all the permits pulled and everything, but it turns out that that you guys were not made aware of it.
Yeah, and I think that's the real critical element, was changes were made that were not permitted. And that's where we're having an issue, and why you're in front of the Preservation Board at all, because we would have normally have passed on any of these kinds of modifications to the house, denying it probably at that point, and we have subsequently done that upon the first review, and so that's why we're here today, is to move towards that.
And he knew that he had to get approval because he got approval for the window replacement and a couple other fence maybe. A couple
Door.
Yeah, a couple other minor.
He had to get approval, so he got approval.
But those were only staff approval. He never came before the board
Correct.
for the other modifications that he decided to do after he got a permit to work on the house.
Yeah, I was involved as soon as we understood that it was a major issue, but I think he showed up the first time, you know, told me he was handling it. Turns out it was not handled. So.
To your point with the French doors are more narrow, I mean, I would feel much more comfortable doing the narrower French doors and filling in, doing the fill in of the 6 inches or whatever.
We'd have to expand it. Yeah, we'd have to expand it, which would require new engineering, because now we're cutting it to,
You would have, are the new doors larger or smaller?
any new doors are larger.
Larger.
That's if you're buying standard doors. If you have a custom opening, you would get a custom French door, I would think.
Yeah. So we tried to cut down, and not specifically custom. I mean, custom doors right now are 6 months, 8 months out. But we tried to cut down some doors to make them fit, and we were unable to do so. But we did not custom order new French doors for it.
And you could have just as easily put in a French door and a side light in the location that you created this front door.
No, a French door and a side light. No, we could have custom ordered French doors, but we couldn't find a French door set that would fit in the space. The space is too narrow. The old French doors were just narrow French doors.
Were they like 2.4 or 2.0, or what were they? Do you have any idea?
They weren't even a standard anything. They were just shrunken. They're just shrunken. If you go measure that opening, it's still the same size of an opening. It just is large enough to fit one door and a side.
It's a little over 4 feet wide, so it was probably 2.0 doors, right?
Yeah, 36.
Or something of that nature.
Yeah.
And I think we're okay with the door that you're using, and that's why we were saying it could be put in the place of where the red door was originally,
Right.
and use that same front door. And that was a staff recommendation as a part of this denial, was that yes, we'd like to see the man door put back where it was, and you could use the front door that you have bought. And so you're not losing the cost of that door. But
the problem with that is
you would have to buy then probably a 3.0 French door, half of a set, and put a full glass door next to the side light that you've got there in order to create the same opening that you have with the French door.
Okay, let's back up a minute. I thought we had decided that the red door was probably not original.
The door itself may not have been. We do think the doorway opening was in that location.
Even though it's not centered on anything.
Right, it's centered under the window on the second floor that is centered on the house.
So the oddity is
The porch.
porch being added at whatever point. The oddity is that porch then funkies up the look.
But it's,
Yeah,
The
it's
one-
not centered.
Yeah.
how to get in.
It's pre-existing.
The porch and steps are not on the
Right.
center line of the house.
The other issue we have trying to move a larger door over to the previous door's opening, so if we're trying to move that larger door over to the left, is that we would be widening it significantly, which would require the a structural engineer to redraw those plans so that we can add a header and a beam up above it to support what's above it.
Are you saying the front door to the house was less than the 3.0 door originally then?
The front door of the home could have been 3.0. I'm saying the current door that we have with the side light wouldn't fit in that space to the left.
Okay, how did the new door end up where it is?
There was a French door right there.
Yeah.
There was a set of French doors. There was 2 front doors on this home. So you walked up to the front of the home, and you got a man door.
That's not where the red door is.
No, it's not where the red door is.
See, it looks like you had 4 French doors. And they
Yeah, so those there's the French doors. Those are smaller than your standard French doors.
Right.
They're just an odd shape. In fact,
But
the
it does look
tops
like
of the
the red
doors
door
didn't
was a
even line
3.0
up.
door.
So it looked weird when you walked up. The tops of the doors didn't even line up completely.
So is that like a 4-foot wide opening where the French doors are?
Just over 4 foot.
I don't know the exact measurement. I know it was too small to fit a French door set.
But approximately 4 foot-ish? Okay.
I'm not sure.
So, and now the new beige colored door, the wood colored door, forget the side light for the moment. How wide is the wooden door that you have up there? And just the door, forget the side light, can that door be easily moved over to where the red door was?
Possibly. I'm not sure.
Because I'm thinking that move the door, rework the molding and trim, remove the side light, get whatever French door that, is going to be appropriate for where the door and side light are right now, remove the shutters and headers, and you've got a much less expensive fix than, work with your openings. Personal thought here, work with your openings, but move just the door, the beige door, brown door, whatever, over to where the red one should be.
You can put in a full light door there and leave the side light, and you'd have equivalent of a French door. It's just you'd have one that's wider than the other.
But isn't that doing this exact same thing though?
No, because I'm saying if it's a full light door, then it performs the same function as a French door.
I'm still thinking you can find something in a French door that will fit there.
You could.
And if it's get whatever size is just smaller than your opening and fill the extra. That way you're not doing architectural, you're using this door in structural, you're using this beige door over where the red door is, and get the header and the shutters out of there.
And the sign.
And the sign.
I think my concern is that
They're doing a great job.
it was denied, and because the door placement, it's the steps to nothing, it's the steps up to a blank wall, was why we all denied it last time. And I think I think his presentation, although thorough about shutters, didn't address any other examples of that in the neighborhood. If the point is that this house has the same features that other houses have, then we would have needed to see examples of steps that go up to a blank wall without the door. And because that wasn't, and no new information was provided, I don't know how we could overturn or change our minds if nothing has changed from the previous meeting.
So, right now, the steps don't lead up directly to the front door. It kind of leads to
Correct.
half of the door. The door doesn't line up with the steps. It didn't originally, right?
And we're not sure whether the door was eccentric in the original 1920s house, but it certainly is centered up with the window up above, which means it was on the center of the body of the house.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the porch was
Funky.
off center, is what it looks like.
Yeah. We can speculate what it was back in 1925. This is what we've got. I can tell you Max loves what he has, and he's dead set on it. you know, I'm happy to do whatever I need to do to make both of you happy. But he loves the house the way it is. He just fell in love with it. He likes the area. He loves Lakeland. You know,
It looks good.
I think
I
that
liked it. It looked good inside. I like, you know, you had that straight shot into the kitchen and everything, but the fact is, the front door was moved and nobody approved it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the reality
The
here is
building
that
department
we're
didn't
not,
approve it.
like,
That's
you're-
why I have a problem is the building department permits things, the builder and owner build it that way, and then it's no longer acceptable.
Except I don't think they ever permitted moving the
No.
door.
Is there a
Yeah.
CO on the house right now?
No, there's not, or there shouldn't be. The building permit
It's still
has
open.
not, yeah, it's still open.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, so we didn't move a door though. That's the point I'm trying. We never moved a door. We enclosed a door and placed a new door where the French door was. We never once
Okay.
moved a door.
You effectively moved the entrance to the house.
No, they didn't use the man door. Well,
Wow.
they
We
could
don't
have.
know.
They could
We
have.
don't
Well, it
know.
could have gone into the other unit, but into the main house, they were using the French doors for the main house.
okay, so what we don't have,
After the renovation.
No,
Because
before
the wall,
when we bought
the wall
it,
was
there was
added, you said, as well.
when we bought it, there was two front doors. There's a man door and a French door right next to each other. They didn't even line up.
Yes. Yes.
The main door was the French door. The man door went
That
into
unit.
unit B or whatever, right here.
But what we're saying is that the man door location was probably the original entrance to the house.
And it could have been. And I'm saying I didn't move a door. I enclosed that door and I put a new door where the French door was.
Right. We are understanding that.
so what we have here is we have one, and I'm loosely using the word original, the light yellow. We have one original photo. We have the older photo. We have the new photo. Based on the older photo, since you don't have photos prior to that, unfortunately, we're having to go based on this. It is a contributing building. The door was
There.
there. The French doors were there. The shutters and header were not there. And, you know, to me, the red door opening needs to be opened back up, put a door there, remove the shutters, remove the headers.
Would you
put
propose we
French doors?
enclose where the French doors were?
No, put French doors, even if they're a little bit smaller than the current opening, put the French doors back and fill in the
It
whatever.
would require us to open it wider.
You would have to find French doors that were smaller.
So if we did that, yeah, you're talking 6 months to get special ordered French doors in.
I would-
And Max does not want two front entrances to his house.
But.
Well, you don't have to use the French doors for an entrance at all.
Right.
And you don't have to use the other door for an entrance. You have to
Call through the
have
window if you
them
want.
back there because this is what we have and it's a contributing building. To me, I automatically look on all of these to see whether they're contributing or not. If they're contributing, I'm wanting to keep with what we know we have.
Do you believe in 1925 it was built with two front doors? Or do you think they added it to give it the unit A, B so that you rent it out?
It's existing.
I think there was one front door. The French doors were there for circulation of air through the space, is what I think.
And frankly, we don't have that information. And the presentation, while really interesting, I mean, it doesn't do, you know, frame vernacular. It doesn't go back specifically to this. And I feel like, you know, again, shutters and header need to go. Red door needs to be put back in. French doors of whichever size to fit that opening. Find them, Actually, Broken Pour had some really interesting stuff that is architectural that could very well have what it needs. So I personally, put it back, fix it.
Like it was.
It's contributing, take the sign away, move the shutters and headers.
So what is the issue with the sign? It's not on the house. It's not part of the house. I mean, can we put up any bushes we want? Can we put rock
You
down?
don't see freestanding numbers, signage on residential houses normally,
But
anywhere within the historic district.
I guess what we're struggling with, and Max as well, is why? It's not on the house. It's not a part of the house. It's landscaping.
That's not landscaping.
Yeah, that's
It's definitely landscaping. It's right in the middle of the grass.
It's considered signage according to the city sign ordinance.
Okay.
Okay, not landscape.
Put your numbers up on the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not numbers on the house.
As far as the,
I'm saying put them.
if I could, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
with the regard to the building number, the city code does require building numbers to be put onto the building unless
Right.
the building itself is not visible from the street. So in this case, the board would not be able to approve a code violation.
A freestanding
So, I mean,
sign,
the
yeah.
sign itself is not a code violation, but they would have to put the numbers onto the building. So if the board was okay with the sign, they would end up having to have both. They would still have to put numbers on the building. So they'd have numbers on the building and the sign would be required by code.
Thank you.
I mean, it's looking like it's trying to be a modern something,
Not 1920.
not a 1920 frame vernacular.
We're trying to make it 1920.
I think we need to kind of move on with this, and so I'll entertain a motion to accept, deny, or whatever, and then we'll call the question after that. We've had a lot of discussion.
So,
Mr. Chair, if I could make a comment on
Yes.
on this. The staff recommendation is to deny, and if the inclination of the board is to deny, I would recommend simply to adopt that staff recommendation because it does contain the applicable design guideline references and is a
Yes.
very thorough report on that. If the board is inclined to deny, it would reference that recommendation would be the basis for denial. If the board is inclined to approve, then there would just need to be a stated rationale for that approval. And then the other option would be to approve it with certain conditions. And that would be,
Be outlined as well.
outlining a recommendation with approval. The way that it's set up in the staff recommendation is a denial with a recommendation that they make certain adjustments and then reapply. So that's one option. Or, the other option would be to approve with those, essentially with those recommendations as conditions of the approval. So it's the pleasure of the board what to do. And then, of course, obviously, postponement is always an option as well if the board thinks that a postponement of this item would be productive and getting more information or something along those lines.
and if we deny the appeal, he has another 30 days to, or because he's already come back with the...
If the board denies the appeal, the option that they would have, they could take us to court and appeal the board in the circuit court. And then, or if they don't want to do that, they could modify their application in a way that would be substantial. Ms. Foster would be the one who would make the determination whether or not the change was substantial enough to come right back to the board immediately. And then if they didn't want to do either one of those things, they would have a period of 1 year. And then after that 1 year has expired, then they could come back and essentially try again with the same thing. And those would be the options. But of course, if they waited for a year, then they would, they would not have a certificate of occupancy. There could be potential code enforcement action in that time.
And, okay.
So a motion to deny the appeal per staff recommendations. would be the right, appropriate. I'd like to make a motion to deny the appeal based on staff recommendations from the last meeting.
Do we have a second to the motion?
Second.
All right. Is there any further discussion on just the motion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and go to a roll call vote. John White, Chair, approve. Lynn Dennis, still absent. Landis Fleming?
No,
Okay.
What, you're against the motion?
Against the motion to make the changes. Dan
of
Fowler?
course, that change, I don't think is practical.
I am for the motion.
Okay. Jeremy Moses?
For the motion.
Christopher Olson?
Or,
Cesar Perez is absent. Melinda Rinker?
For the motion.
And Michelle Sylvester.
For.
All right. By a vote of 6 to 1, the motion to deny the appeal has been approved
Okay.
with staff recommendations.
You guys, once again, just tell us what the next steps were then? What were our options there?
The options at this point, because that was appeal to the HPB, so that's the end of the line for the city process. If you don't think that the board made an appropriate decision, then you can go to circuit court, consult with a lawyer, what your options are as far as litigation. If you want to continue with the city, then you can amend your application. You'd work with Ms. Foster to amend your application and then resubmit. You would come back before the board with something different. Or if you didn't want to change
We're going to
anything,
go
you'd
the
have to
court
wait a
option.
year.
Unfortunately, Max is determined to keep this house the way it is. He loves it the way it is, and I think we're going to end up going that route, unfortunately. I do wish he was here, to kind of share some of his thoughts on it, but he's a lot more educated than I am. He's stating things like, keeps bringing up the English case law and says that it's upon you guys to show proof of what this house was like in 1925 if you want to deny what we did to it. And so, I unfortunately, I think this is we're just going to see you down the road, I guess. So, but I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Have a good
Thank you. Last item on the agenda is board support has been requested for the honoring of the name of the passenger holding area at the Lakeland Linder Airport for Mr. Walter Engel. Did you want to speak to the issue?
I don't really have anything prepared other than this initiative is supported by the Board of Directors of Historic Lakeland Incorporated, and also the Lakeland Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Engel was a longtime member of the chamber, and he specifically chaired the aviation committee. He's one of the members that are very responsible for bringing in commercial aviation into Lakeland.
Yes.
And we may have Miss Wiggins, Miss Amy Wiggins from the chamber. Hello.
You do.
Hello.
Who's surprised by it?
State your name and address.
Good morning, Amy Wiggins, Lakeland Area Chamber of Commerce, 35 Lake Morton Drive. I am here to speak on behalf of a very exciting opportunity. We, of course, are moving forward excitingly and voraciously on bringing passenger air service once again to Lakeland Linder International Airport now. And as you all know, the Chamber of Commerce has been instrumental in so many of those pivotal moments that our community has experienced, including passenger air service and the movement of the unified air terminal to the Drainfield Road area. And Mr. Walter Engel was so pivotal in doing that, and actually chaired the aviation committee for the chamber and made sure that we were always on the front lines making sure that Lakeland was represented. And so we would just appreciate the endorsement of this body as well in support of something to honor him and to honor the chamber's commitment to Lakeland's future.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any other comments from the general public? We'll entertain a motion from the board to endorse the naming or...
A motion to approve.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right. We have a motion on the floor then to approve our support of the request to honor Walter Engel by naming the passenger holding area at Lakeland Linder Airport for Mr. Engel. All those in, do we have any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. Emily, will that require a letter from me to the commission, or what will it require?
No, I believe your motion is satisfactory.
Is sufficient?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion for the adjournment of the Preservation Board.
Motion to adjourn.
And second that.
Okay. All right.
The easy part out of the way.
Any discussion? All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you so much. We will now move into Design Review Committee. I'd like to call to order the Design Review Committee meeting for June 23rd, 2022. We'll have a roll call first. Len Dennis, absent. John White, present. Dan Fowler,
Present.
Landis Fleming,
Present.
Jeremy Moses,
Present.
Chris Olson,
Present.
and Melinda Rinker.
Present.
All right. We have a quorum. You have before you the meeting minutes of the May 26th meeting of the Design Review Committee. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? I'll ask for a motion to adopt the minutes as presented.
Move to adopt minutes.
I'm like, where are they? Like, I read this, but.
A second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the May 26th meeting of the Design Review Committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you so much. You have before you, I believe, 13 cases administratively approved for review, certificates of review. Were there any questions or comments from the committee about those administratively approved certificates of review? Hearing none, we'll pass on that then, and we don't need a motion to approve that. The only motion would have been had we asked questions and had to change any of them. We'll start now with the consideration of certificates of review applications. This is the public hearing portion of the meeting, and the committee is ready to consider certificates of review. We have before us first the HPB 22-099, 733 Sykes Boulevard. Final approval requested for the construction of a front porch. Emily?
And Mr. Chair, I think we need to ask for conflicts among the committee.
Oh, yes. Do we have any conflicts on the board with this application? Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the subject property is an interior lot of record consisting of 0.29 acres. And on this property is a one-story, single-family residence built circa 1951 in the modern masonry vernacular style, which is a non-contributing building in the Lake Hunter Terrace Historic District. The house features a low-pitched hip roof, a one-car garage that has been enclosed, and a front stoop with a shed roof. The applicant's request proposes to expand the existing stoop to the left corner of the home to provide a front porch feature. The new porch dimensions will be 6 feet by 13 feet. The shed roof of the stoop will be removed and replaced with a new truss roof system that ties into the house to match the existing roof pitch. Materials for the new porch include concrete block stem wall to match the existing, stucco brick to match the existing cladding in style and color, aluminum square tube hand railing in white or black color, and wood 4x4 posts with a 1x6 composite trim. The site plan for the proposed addition shows building setbacks that comply with the urban form standards of the Land Development Code. And the request was evaluated using the Secretary's standards and design guidelines referenced here. In evaluating the request with the design guidelines, staff finds that the materials of the proposed front porch addition reflect the materials of the house and are compatible with the guidelines for this particular term. The design of the proposed addition introduces a new hip roof that is subordinate in scale with the main roof of the house. However, the new roof is not in line with the existing roof line over the front door, which provides for an awkward transition between the existing and new structures. Additionally, while the porch columns and railing are designed in a simple manner, these features are out of character for a house in the modern masonry vernacular style. Finally, as this home may be considered contributing to the Lake Hunter Terrace Historic District in a future resurvey of this district, it is not appropriate to remove the existing stoop or build an addition that projects into the front yard area beyond the principal facade of the house according to the design guidelines. So as the request is not consistent with the design guidelines for historic properties, staff recommends denial of the request as submitted. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is the owner of the property or his representative present? Yes, if you'd like to come forward. If you'll state your name and address for the record, and then...
My name is Samantha Jorgensen.
Paul Jorgensen.
I am Kevin Aldis, the contractor for Green Construction.
Thank you. Would you like to make a presentation?
I think today we're here to try to understand and learn what kind of accommodations the contractor can do to adhere to your standards.
Mm-hmm.
I will let the homeowners speak on their behalf as far as how long they've been there and what their future plans are.
Okay.
We're looking to keep the home. We don't want to move. We've been there since 2017?
2016.
16. And we thought about it, but we're making it ours.
Mm-hmm.
We got Lake Hunter looking out the front, when you go outside, looking out the front window. We want something to go outside like everybody else on Sykes, Boulevard, to just enjoy it, more importantly during the winter months. That's our favorite time of year. And we just want to be able to sit outside. I just want quiet and just honestly the look. It's that simple.
Okay.
And whatever you guys require, we would just like to see what we need to do.
Okay. Is there any public comment? Did you need to say anything again? Any of the three of you about your application?
He said it, and we haven't started this project yet, thankfully, so whatever alterations we need to make, we want to make sure that we're within the guidelines so that we basically don't go through what that last guy was.
Well, I think that the couple of biggest things that we noticed are you are moving into the front yard, and that is one of the standards, that you don't project into the front yard further than what the house itself projects into the front yard. And then the second one was just the appropriateness of what you have designed to go there as compared to a mid-century modern home. And those are the two questions I think that are at mercy here. I don't want to speak out of turn. There might be some accommodation for a patio out front or something like that.
Yes, so an at-grade patio would not be prohibited by the design guidelines. we would consider that a landscaping feature. So, putting out pavers or any sort of paving to create like a sitting space, especially for a non-contributing structure, that would be permitted.
In the resurvey, though, is this of age that it could become contributing?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
That, I think, was part of what your presentation was about.
Yes, and being that it's a modern masonry vernacular structure, a front stoop is characteristic of that style. So we wouldn't want to potentially remove a character-defining feature. However, as your staff, I was strictly interpreting the design guidelines, and as you all know, this is currently a non-contributing structure, so I will just put that out there that you have flexibility.
Reason why we're resurveying. But
That's right.
currently non-contributing.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the stoop, though, we're not technically removing it. It will still be there. It's just going to be replaced as is and have a new stoop. And then when it comes to coming back out into the yard, the structure isn't coming out any further than the existing stoop. Does that make a difference?
And it's further out, I think, than the body of the house, and I think that's the way the guidelines are written.
So the bulk of the new front porch actually does project further than the front house. I get what you're saying with the garage projects out.
We do have some images of houses along Sykes Boulevard that have similar type features.
Could you hand those to Emily, and maybe she can put them up on the projector?
Now, I realize, learning from experience from the last guy, some of these.
Cautionary tale. We'll have to play that at the beginning of every
hour long. Gosh, okay. Completely weird.
Oof.
And we also have several more pictures that we didn't print of just houses within the Lake Hunter Terrace Historic District along like those sides roads like Dorothy and Marjorie and Josephine, I think, where Oak Hill, where they all.
Ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just got word from the communications. If you could just step a little bit closer to the microphone. Thank you so much.
Sorry.
We get the thumbs up back there.
I typically can speak loud enough so that I don't need a microphone.
Well, and so the first picture, that is directly along Sykes Boulevard, and I would say that this house is approximately within the same era as the subject property home. It's probably 1950s, 1960s ranch-style home.
And in looking at that, does that screen room, it doesn't appear to come any further out than the
It doesn't,
the white gable.
It has also been there for quite a while. Keep in mind that Lake Hunter Terrace was designated as a historic district back in 2003. So anything that was done before 2003 was grandfathered in.
Okay, all right. Yes, go ahead with your presentation.
And then I'll just show this one. I'm not sure exactly where this one is on.
This is along Sykes Boulevard as well, going in the south direction.
So which one?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Which one are we looking at? The one on the right?
The one with the fence or
The
which
one with the fence, yes.
So what?
It has a porch.
It has a front porch. This homeowner is allowed to enjoy their nice view of the lake on their front porch.
Right.
Yeah, the big gable, yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right.
This house is directly next to us, so another front porch as well that sticks out past the house.
Is that you over there?
That's to the
right.
Yes.
To the right. That's you. Okay. With the big tree in front.
Correct.
Okay. I think that looks more like a craftsman.
Yeah, that one's definitely a 1920s
bungalow, which has
bungalow.
a complete different, era, style,
That porch
And
is
it's called
probably
an airplane
original.
bungalow, I believe, because of its low roof.
I've not heard that.
And that is a two-story home, that picture.
The what?
It's a two-story home, that picture.
Yeah.
Oh, it's right here in front of me, I can see.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay, I see the, yeah.
Yeah. I think there's only one in the Morton neighborhood. Is everyone going?
I'm learning new things every day.
Oh, okay. Yes, are there more?
Nope.
All right.
Just the 3 examples.
3 examples, and we believe that that home was built with the porch originally.
Yeah.
So it was approved by permitting that would have occurred back in the 20s, probably.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I think what we're saying, the staff recommendation is denial of the request as submitted. We're not saying that everything is inappropriate, but I'm seeing the 2 columns out front. Are those at the front face of the stoop? Yes. And they're wooden?
No, brick.
Brick? Okay.
Stucco brick.
Okay. And we think the stoop was originally built that way with a shed roof like that? Okay.
Yeah.
So a patio is acceptable out there. Is some sort of gazebo to provide shade? I'm thinking, okay, their plan includes some sort of roof. Is there any roof that's acceptable over a patio? I don't know what the...
Not in the front yard.
Not in the front, okay, thank you.
Or in the street side yard either. That would be considered a secondary front yard, so.
Okay.
They would only be able to put a roofed structure like a gazebo or pergola in the backyard.
And is that just based on this style house? Because there are lots of houses along Sykes Boulevard that have front porches covered.
Yeah.
Is there a style of roof that could connect into this that would be appropriate, or I think that's the real question is?
I have a little different take on this, I think, from everybody. If you're gonna put a roof over something, I think what they have there ties into the house naturally.
Very much so.
Doing something, a different pergola or something, is gonna be very, very distinctive and different.
Right.
And I was thinking of roof-like something, attempting to figure out what was potentially acceptable.
What I've seen too with mid-century modern, I have seen mid-century modern homes with a wide front porch.
Right.
It's not uncommon, and that projects out.
And it had the one example she showed us with that low slope gable.
What I see here is, it's just the construction, the columns and the feel do not fit the mid-century modern home. I've seen them with, kind of those wide wrought iron or columns with those designs and such. Yeah, that's quite a common way to do it, and with maybe a corresponding handrail like that. But just conceptually, it could have been, the house could have been built mid-century modern with something like that to begin with. And to say just because it's not there now, you can't do it, I can't subscribe to that. And I like it when homeowners want to improve their home in these neighborhoods.
Well, and I think the staff pointed out that our design guidelines are kind of hampering us. And truth of the matter is, it's only a 6-foot porch. If we go to an 8-foot porch, which is our minimum, it sticks out even further into the front yard. So that's the question.
But like they say, that they're call it a porch infill, will only project out as far as their current front stoop.
Right.
So it just goes to the left and it's rebuilt. So that gives them usable space. I understand it is, looking at the lower roof projection at the front door is kind of awkward. If that could be removed in alignment with the end of the new roof, if you will, and that the wall where the front door is just extended up to the ceiling, that would make it look more natural.
Or build this thing with its elevation a little lower.
Yeah, that's true. Or the fascia of the new roof aligns with that line, the existing line. It's lower,
It
but-
has to slide down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
X inches, whatever. Tell
But
me.
I'm just saying conceptually, I think this is fine, it's just how it's detailed out.
I was gonna say, I think that's the most important thing. If you keep the brick column thing,
Yeah,
and
you
your
could have- okay,
railing
right.
is super important, your style, not get a prefab Home Depot colonial.
Right.
You know, a little spindle, like that doesn't fit the house.
It's all about the lines.
And it's always been my goal to make it look as natural and like it was meant to be there and built with the
Like it was
house.
originally built with that.
Right. So I think what Michelle is saying is maybe we go back with brick columns similar to the two that are there on the stoop. Might be
And
one way to go.
The
And-
skirting, whatever, that
Yeah.
same exact brick that's on the house, so it
Right.
looks, not a PVC lattice.
Right.
Right, yeah,
And then you have different options then on how you treat the railing. It could be a pierced brick, it could be a wooden railing between masonry columns.
Well, again, too,
What
I
about
don't
the
have
railing that's already existing on the stoop? That's an aluminum railing. Could it just match that?
I don't have a problem with replacing the brick columns with something of the wrought iron 1950 style.
Yeah, could very
Really.
well.
I think I'd rather have that, that's a more, fits it better, that would fit it better to me than the brick.
And then the wrought iron would go down the hand railing as well, correct?
I really like
But
that.
there's like bad wrought iron. There's like, my mom bought a house that had bird houses and wrought iron, and it was some
Right, this
era,
is-
and it was ugly.
Yeah.
It's really bad. So just like wrought iron is a little too willy-nilly.
Tacky historic versus
Yeah.
historic.
Yeah,
Similar to the
and we need to be
handrail, but-
careful with conjectural features as well.
Right.
Similar to the handrail, that minimal sort of just clean
minimal.
lines, right? Looks nice.
Is that I do like the brick column here. I think that really, this house has really clean lines.
It's part of the character.
Yeah, and I would not want to lose the brick column. If you took that porch roof, the stoop roof, and continued it over, and continued the brick columns, I think that would give it a much better option here than even the wrought iron, which, yes, is a part of that historical era, but I don't feel like it would be historical to this.
You just hit a great idea.
Which?
Well, I think extending that roof structure, that low slope roof across,
Straight, yeah, just
Right,
straight
right
across.
into the face.
keeps it much simpler than a large hip structure.
And you might get away with just putting one column on the corner. And,
I was gonna
and let it
ask
span,
what-
free span.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's your span length? Because if you can get rid of that middle column, then you're not cutting your window in half.
Right.
Right.
Keeps it real nice and clean.
And that gives you the opportunity for the bottom of that beam to line up with the fascia of the house over the right picture window.
I would be okay with the 6 foot because frankly, it goes back and then the rest of it would be 8 foot, at least, ish, right at there. Follow the porch floor straight across, brick that front exactly like the brick of the house, another brick column, the roof straight line across.
These are all just suggestions.
Yeah, right. No, but that would, and I do not do the hip roof because that completely changes, or don't change, the roof, because that completely changes the style and the era, whereas just straight across column,
And make it a shed roof.
And it would be differentiated.
And what?
And it would be differentiated from the host structure.
Yeah.
The pitch of the roof would change though, because you have like 2 pitches at the entrance area, so you would have to change it to get your height, right?
Yes.
Slightly.
Well, the pitch of the extension would match the the portion over the front door now, the porch.
So it would sit like up underneath the existing eave where there's no porch?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not a continuation of the roof line, it would sit up underneath?
Correct.
Okay.
Continuation of the
And is the new porch area, is it like a concrete? Okay, so it's the same material across the top? Okay.
It's gonna look nice.
I'm going to chime in and say something that hopefully is not taken the wrong way, but the board, as much as everyone's enjoying the conversation or whatnot, I don't want to discourage the board from designing the project for the applicant.
Right.
That's really not the role of the board. The board is to, take what's presented, determine if it meets the guidelines or not. And so I don't want to, I think it's a great conversation, certainly helpful to the applicant to know what the board is inclined to approve. But I do want to just friendly reminder that the applicant gets to design their project, and then the board gets to apply the design guidelines to what they have designed and presented. So I'm sorry to chime in and
No, that's fine.
just friendly reminder.
Keeping us moving, Jared.
No, that's fine, but there is, of course, the flip side where without some guidance, they're completely lost and don't know what direction to go, so.
Right.
So we do appreciate what's allowable and what's not.
Right.
But yeah,
So
we're not going to charge for our services.
Well, and to the committee members,
Thank you,
Design
Jared.
2022.
Do we have any other discussion of the proposal from the staff to deny the application as presented? Or would we like to make some motion to the effect of tabling it or doing something different until the applicant has a chance to modify their application?
So if we table it, they could come back next month with the new design that they come up with.
And potentially just work with you and
Yes.
get it approved
Yeah.
without even having to come back.
Mr. Chair, that's what I was going to suggest is.
Mr. Chair,
Not,
may I ask them a question?
Yes.
So you've heard the feedback and the comments from the board. Are you inclined to make some changes to your project and bring it back?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, with that, I think it would be more appropriate to just postpone it rather than straight denial and then make them have to invoke the appeal process and everything.
All right.
Okay.
Do we have a motion to postpone till next month?
Motion.
I'll second that.
All right. We have a motion before us. Is there any discussion on the motion? And it doesn't necessarily have to be next month. I mean, if it takes you 2 months to put together your plans for what you want to do, that's fine.
What about 2 days?
But to post it. We don't meet that often, but we do meet the fourth Thursday of every month, so you could get back here as early as 30 days from now.
I would like a question.
Yes.
As the general contractor, can I work with Emily, or is it the recommendation that you're looking for the roof line to carry over all the way across to the big triple window as one continuous and get rid of the hip? Or are we okay with redesigning something where it stops over the door?
My thought is leave the main roof the way it is and pull the stoop roof line all the way over to the corner of the house. Is that the
That's the concept we're at.
Yeah, that's just a concept.
a concept?
Yeah.
As long as something like that fits within the guidelines with Emily.
Correct.
These are just us spitballing.
So yes, your discussion is going to be with staff in the interim period, and then we just deal with what's presented to us at the next time you come before the board. Design Review Committee.
And if it fits within the guidelines perfectly, then she would administratively approve it, and it wouldn't need to
No,
necessarily.
it still has to come back.
It's too big.
It still has to come back to us because
Okay.
it's
It's a front addition, so
I see, yeah.
It's a what?
And
it's an addition to the front of the house, so I can't.
I just want to be clear, just because it's on the drawings, but the windows aren't changing, right?
Correct. No, they're not.
Right. And I don't know if the depiction in your elevation renderings is correct, but the roof sure looks like it's a lower slope than what's shown in those elevations, so I don't know whether...
Almost looks flat.
Yeah, it's more like a 2 and 12, and this is showing us something like a 4 and 12 roof, so I don't know if that was just an accident or whether the draftsman didn't know what he was doing.
So we're just not looking to switch the pitch of the roof
Correct.
No.
on that.
And it would be up to you as to whether or not you match the pitch of the stoop or you match the pitch of the house in what you apply to Emily for. Is there any other discussion of the motion to postpone? Hearing none, do we need to do a roll call for something like postponement?
I think you can just call, if there's an objection, someone can raise it.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank you.
All right. Our next application is for HPB 22-103, 219 Riggin Street. Final approval for request for new construction of a building addition proposed for the house at this address. Yes. Emily, would you like to give the staff recommendation?
Mr. Chair, can you check for conflicts first?
Do we have any conflicts on the board? I haven't done this in many, many years, obviously. Any conflicts from board members on this request? Okay.
No.
Thank you. Okay, so the subject property is an interior lot of record consisting of 0.14 acres. On this property is a one-story single-family residence built circa 1925 in the bungalow architectural style, which is a contributing building in the South Lake Morton Historic District. The bungalow styling of this house is expressed by a double gable front roof, triangular knee braces in the gable, and a front porch supported by tapered columns on brick plinths. The house also has wooden drop-lap siding, corner boards, curved rafter tails, and double-hung sash windows with a 1/1 light configuration. Alterations include the enclosure of the front porch, jalousie windows in some window openings, and a building addition on the east side elevation. The applicant's request proposes to construct a 2-foot 6-inch by 8-foot or 20 square foot addition on the east elevation of the home. The proposed addition will remove 2 existing jalousie windows, which will be replaced by new single-hung sash windows. And this is just a slide showing the existing and proposed south elevation. The design and materials for the addition are intended to match the existing house and include a raised foundation to match the existing, wood lap siding to match the historic drop lap profile, vinyl single hung sash windows with a 1/1 light configuration, architectural shingles to match the existing, shed profile matching the roof pitch, and wood fascia with exposed rafter tails to match the existing on the house. The site plan for the proposed addition shows building setbacks that comply with the urban form standards in the Land Development Code. And this request was evaluated using these standards and design guidelines. In evaluating the request with the standards, staff finds that the requested addition does not disturb the spatial relationships that characterize the neighborhood, and the essential form and integrity of the subject house is maintained. In evaluating the request with the design guidelines, the materials of the proposed addition reflect the original materials of the house and are compatible with the design guidelines. The design of the proposed addition's windows, siding, exposed rafter tails, and roof pitch and form is consistent with the style of the subject house and design guidelines. Furthermore, the addition is appropriately placed on a secondary elevation of the home. Finally, the building setbacks for the new addition meet the requirements of the Land Development Code's urban form standards. So, staff recommends final approval of the request as submitted.
All right. Terry, would you or Betty like to speak?
My name is Terry Hunter, live at 219 Riggin Street, the house in question. We are basically doing a major remodel of the kitchen area of the house. And when we got the cabinet layouts and taped them off on the floor, we found that this thing won't work. And potentially we'll end up using a wheelchair at times. This bump out allows us to push the cabinets out and create a space where this will work. And that's the reason for the request. I will say that we want to use aluminum windows because that's what we have previously used in the major addition we put on some years ago. And probably will detail the window openings to match the window openings in that addition.
Okay. Is your contractor here as well? Does he need to speak?
No,
okay.
They weren't able to be present.
Okay.
You said the
Question from the board?
Oh.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The windows, is that in here? Are they being changed, or what are we?
We're taking out jealousy windows and putting in 2 new single.
Gotcha. Okay. Flipping through the photos at the moment, and
and I apologize. We first were supposed to find out if there was anyone from the general public that wanted to speak to this issue, and I hear none. Go ahead.
That was it.
That was your question?
Was there public comment? No. Oh, okay. Okay. You're fine.
Poor gentleman's been sitting for a long time.
Yeah. Other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, we'll close the public portion of this one, and I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve as per staff recommendations.
Second.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Thank you so much. Thank you, Terry, for coming in, you and Betty both, and good to see you up and about.
See, we can be easy.
Yeah. Terry's an architect as well. Dan used to work with
jargon.
Thank you very much.
Distinguished architect.
Yes, very much so. Our next application is HPB 22-104, 1134 Ruby Street. Final approval requested for the installation of new fiber cement siding to replace the original wood siding on the house at this address. Emily? Do we have any conflicts on the board? Thank you. Nice nod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
He's got it figured out today.
Actually, I'm going to do the staff presentation first, and then we'll call you.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. The subject property is an interior lot of record that is 0.16 acres in size. And this property contains a 1-story single-family house built circa 1930, which is a contributing building in the Lake Hunter Terrace Historic District. The house on this lot features the bungalow architectural style, which is expressed by its double front gabled roof and porte-cochere, full-width front porch, brick plinths, and double OG novelty siding. This house exhibits several alterations, including the enclosure of both the porte-cochere and front porch, replacement of all windows with vinyl windows, many of which do not match the original opening size, and the installation of vinyl siding on the rear elevation only. The applicants request to replace the damaged novelty siding on the sides of the house, as well as mixed wood and fiber cement siding within the porte-cochere enclosure with hardy plank lap siding, which will have a 4-inch exposure and a wood grain texture. This request was evaluated using the standards and guidelines referenced here. And while the repair or replacement of small areas of siding may be reviewed and approved by staff, the wholesale replacement of all exterior wall cladding does require the review and approval of the Design Review Committee. The original wood double OG siding, which is a novelty siding with a narrow exposure, appears to be in repairable condition for the most part on the west side of the house. While hardy siding can be an acceptable replacement for wood siding, the profile and dimension of the proposed hardy siding will not match the original siding, and therefore its use as a replacement in place of the novelty siding cannot be supported by staff, consistent with inches may be used in the portico share enclosure only. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yes, are you the owner? Would you like to speak to the project? Or the owner's representative?
Andrea Farias, 1134 Ruby Street. Yeah, so we love living in the historic district. We love everything about history. We actually spent our honeymoon in Pennsylvania at the beautiful mountains, just shopping around at antique shops because we love history and everything about our cute little house we love. Unfortunately, there's just so much, I was saying that to preface, we love history, but when it compromises like the quality of life, it's like it's good to adopt change so that we can live with better quality. And so unfortunately the siding that is on awkwardly just some places of the house is really infested with termites. And I mean, we've had to call for termites like so many times. And that's what we kept being told, that it's just because of the siding and, it's old house and underneath, And so as much as we would like, and plus the cost of that siding in comparison to what we can afford to replace it with, that is actually termite resistant and is consistent with the historic district, with the area, the houses that look like our house, like a bungalow. There's so many houses around that, especially our neighborhood, that have the hardy wood, and it looks so beautiful. It looks, very, bungalow. It still preserves, the historic Lakeland look. And so this is how we inherited the house. The back has vinyl, the front has hardy wood, some of the sides have hardy wood. Some of the front and sides have this raw plain plywood look. I don't know how to, I'm not like a builder, so I don't know like the terms. I just did a little research and realized that hardy wood is very termite resistant. And knowing that this area is infested with termites and rats and things like that, I did a little research and found out that hardy wood is really good to keep those things away. Yeah. And so we want to bring consistency to the house, the appearance of the house, but also like the quality of life, avoiding all those creatures, which I've seen both inside of the house, would be super helpful, so that we can eventually paint it and have one beautiful look of a bungalow home.
All right. Is there any comment from the public? I'll open it up for questions and comments from the board. Emily, I was going to just ask a question. Is it only the, and I don't remember where my north arrow is, but is it only the two sides of the house that have the siding?
That is what the request
and
is
of course
for.
the gables that we see on the front there and
That-
on the edge of the portico share.
That is actually a question I have for the for the applicant. Do you intend to replace the siding in the front gables of the roof?
Up above?
Of the windows.
I mean, it would be preferably so there's like consistency with the house all around.
Well, often gables do have a different material than do houses, but that's I think, her question.
So that's just like for like look, I would say that would be a preference, but also for, like I said, like the quality of life and avoiding the whole termite, because the gable wood is so old. They've made their home all around, like all around and into that wood. And as you guys know, the cost of that kind of wood is really high right now, and we're doing the best we can as like young first-time homeowners to keep, live in the best quality of life and also keep it to the best standards of, historic district.
So how much of the wood on the original portion of the house is badly termite damaged?
The rear. Looks like that.
Like,
Yeah, you can't.
I mean, I see the backs, is it
The side of the
Back.
house behind the porch, yeah.
I guess it's a bathroom window and is that, okay, so this is the porte cochere.
Yes.
And then that's the back, okay. So that part,
That side and this side are where the double drop siding is, the two sides of the house.
In your packet, there's a photograph of the west elevation. I apologize, I didn't include it in the presentation, but that appeared to be the worst damage, where
That's
the
not
worst
visible
damage
from the
was.
street.
right. So you're wanting to do all hardy plank everywhere. How would it,
Well, everywhere that,
The double drop siding is.
that's what this is?
Remove
Yes.
all the wood.
It basically has two little OG curves within a 6-inch board.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering about that terminology there.
Yeah.
So, Emily, can you explain staff recommendation 1 versus staff recommendation 2?
Yes, so if you look at the porte cochere area, that has a combination of hardy board and plywood in it. And so the recommendation includes going ahead and approving or recommending approval for hardy board lap siding in that area.
Including
Where the plywood is and where the other
Around the
side.
front-
Right.
The front window, yeah.
But not in the areas that have the novelty siding.
And on the back side that you were looking at. to the
And
right.
the vinyl, to replace the vinyl with the, okay.
I don't know that she's applying to replace the vinyl on the back, though.
Yeah, were you replacing vinyl on the back or no?
I mean, we do desire to just all consistent. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Reside the whole house. You want to reside the whole house?
In the same material.
With the same material.
So the plywood would be gone, the hardy would be gone, the OG siding would be gone, the vinyl would be gone.
Is there a hardy board that has a reveal that would be acceptable to do the entire house in, or no?
Yeah, the narrowest reveal available now is 4 inches, which it's not going to provide that narrow novelty appearance.
Right. It's not like a double drop siding.
Right.
A 6-inch is what the dimension is normally for a double drop siding, or 5.5.
But the applicant was amenable to using the narrowest hardy board that they could find.
So you'd see about 2.5 inches on each one of those little OG curves.
So this is the front view. It's brick columns and brick underneath the windows? Or is that siding?
Yes, that's
No,
brick.
That is brick.
Siding.
It's brick.
That was
It's brick
an
underneath.
open porch, and they've just put windows in where
Right.
the open porch used to be.
Right, so that's brick down there. The only portion here is in the gable and the front of the porte cochere.
Right.
And a little bit on each side of the windows.
And a tiny bit
Yeah.
Where the shutter is.
Yeah.
Right, so is really the only double OG up in the gables?
It's also on the side elevations of the,
From the front?
from the front, right.
So, and what's the condition of the gable portions?
It's the same thing. We've had like several termite inspectors come, and that's basically what we've been informed. And also historically, you can see the records of the past owner, Paul, where he like specifically had to treat those areas, and specifically like several times. The roof.
Yeah, it looks like it also has a little bit of warping and that kind of stuff, so because you're seeing the shadow of those of every board being a little bit more than the secondary double drop piece.
Right.
Because the house has been altered so much, is it still considered contributing?
It's still considered contributing, yes.
You could always reopen the porch, you could always reopen the portico exterior, you could go back to what the original house looked like, but not likely that's ever going to happen.
Right.
And I would just comment, if the front gables are being considered for reciting, that those triangular gable vents remain.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it helps. We learn it helps with the airflow. So
yes, absolutely.
So the question for the board, I guess, is what the application really says is everywhere we're going to go back with, and did we decide what the exposure was going to be on the hardy board? Have you said that? Is it going to be 5 inches, 4 inches, 7 inches?
I believe they agreed to 4 inches was the 4-inch reveal.
Whatever standard, yeah.
Okay.
What about like on the back side of the building, you have a back door, the deck, and the window. There's no trim around any of those. Would you make it a condition that when they recite it, that they have to put trim around the windows and doors?
On the rear?
Yeah.
Because I'm wondering if those are hidden.
It's not seen from the street, so that's the question. You can certainly ask that question.
I don't think with it being not seen from the street that we can we require, okay. I'm just wondering whether it probably is underneath, or you can, like when you pull that vinyl off, if you can tell.
Right, and I'm sorry for any confusion. The application didn't state that the vinyl was being replaced, so I wasn't aware of that until now, and that's fine. We encourage the removal of vinyl.
Yeah, my husband didn't put it in there, but we did talk about it. That would be, but we just didn't want to, cause any trouble.
Right.
Oh, no.
Any more trouble than what you're already asking for.
And certainly you could remove that vinyl, and you could go back with similar siding to whatever we decide on, and which sounds like it's going to be the 4-inch hardy plank. But I agree with Michelle, if you're going to do that, you might as well then go ahead and put the trim on the door and the windows, like the trim on the windows elsewhere in the house. But that's not part of your application. We're just saying that. Are there other questions from the board? All right.
And there's no hardy board that would give us that shallower.
No, there isn't.
I don't know how, I've not seen hardy board in person, so I'm not sure how it lays.
Yeah, from my research, they have the drop lap or the Dutch lap siding, but they don't have this double OG profile siding.
So is it the board's recommendation to continue to have multiple styles of siding as long as it fits within the standard rather than within the guidelines? I'm just trying to, if the goal is to have consistent siding throughout the entire house, there's no way to do that with anything other than the replacing with wood OG.
Yeah, the guidelines don't address consistency in siding type, and generally it's preferable to maintain historic fabric where you can.
That's more important than,
Yes.
than consistency. Okay.
That's the way the guidelines are written.
Right, and that's all.
Well, and the gables are much smaller than the rest of the house. So having to replace that with the double OG in the gables on the front, while still potentially costly, that would maintain the fabric, and the rest of it in the hardy board 4-inch lap.
You could deal with the two sides of the house staying in the double OG too. That's what I think the staff recommendation is.
Okay.
In other words, this area and the area on the flip side. And that's per our guidelines. Our guidelines say try to maintain the historic fabric.
Right, and that's also behind the portico.
Yeah, you really wouldn't see it.
You wouldn't see that from the street either.
But at some point, if they decided to reopen the portico shear, there's probably siding going all the way up the inside of the portico shear that's been drywalled over on the inside.
Good Lord, we're having an interesting day, aren't we? Okay.
I'll entertain a motion.
I can't make one. I can't.
Okay, as it stands now, with staff recommendation, like the vinyl on the back would also be replaced, or is that a requirement?
It does not have to be. And according to what the staff recommendation is, we're not addressing it.
Right.
The vinyl would just remain.
Okay. That'd be their choice.
That could be their choice, however they apply for the permit.
And staff recommendation also doesn't address the plywood or anything like that, right? It's just to replace?
No, it does. Number 2 addresses the siding being requested for the porte-cochere.
Okay.
And what that recommendation
But
is.
it does say try to maintain the double drop siding wherever there is double drop siding. It's number 1.
Right.
Do you understand the staff recommendations?
I don't.
Yes.
I do.
Are you in agreement?
No.
From like the original recommendation? No, I think that because that type of wood really like harbors and like is a beautiful home for termites, I think that as much as it would be to preserve, the historic look, is definitely affects the quality of life. And so I think it's good to, learn from history and take the good, and make the necessary changes to still preserve the good from history, but have, better quality by learning from history that would, entertains a lot of creatures that Florida has. So, I don't see why hardywood or anything like it that.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Ms. Foster, once they start to remove and get in there and they find that maybe some of it is a little bit more damaged than what's visible from the outside, how would the staff recommendation on number 1, how would that work at that point?
Again, we would go back with, recommending that they replace the deteriorated siding with the same type of siding, not with the hardy board.
Mm-hmm. I'm facing the same kind of thing on my garage right now.
And again,
I'm going to replace 3 boards. I'm replacing 8 boards.
Right.
and
Once
price
you pull it
tripled.
off there, nice surprises with the design guidelines. I just pulled them up just so I could see verbatim what they say, and our new design guidelines are really. It's really nice because they kind of give you a summary at the end that says acceptable and not acceptable.
Right.
And that kind of sums everything up for you really nicely. And what it says is not acceptable is the removal of original exterior cladding that is not deteriorated beyond repair, or the replacement of cladding materials that are not compatible with the style or design, or vinyl or aluminum. So those are the 3 non-acceptable things. And then
Wait, can you go back and read the part that did not deteriorated beyond repair? What was it?
It says it's not acceptable to remove original exterior cladding that is not deteriorated beyond repair.
Okay.
And then it is acceptable to replace with cement board siding that's similar and scale, proportion, texture, and finish to wood as an alternative replacement to exterior cladding. So the hardy board is acceptable if it matches the scale, proportion, texture, and finish. So just thought it might be helpful to hear verbatim what the design guidelines say.
So the part that is deteriorated beyond repair would have to be...
Well, I think according to the staff's recommendation, that it would have to be replaced with wood if it's deteriorated beyond repair.
Yeah, kind of the rub is if hardy or if there was a fiber cement product that matched the profile and dimension of the novelty siding, there wouldn't be an issue. We could easily accept that as a replacement material.
But that's not available.
Question.
It's not available.
Can hardy board be
No.
routed?
No.
I don't, I've not used hardy board yet, so.
It's a cement board is what it is.
I think where I'm a bit confused too is that makes sense to me. If we're replacing, if 100% of the house is still cladded in the same siding, when only 40% or 30% of the house still remains in that, you're almost perpetuating it to still stay with 4 different types of siding or 3 different types of siding. You know, you got vinyl and you have hardy board, and then you also have now wood still. And is that a better compromise than just hardy board?
You as committee members have that purview authority to make.
Well, you also have the testimony of the applicant that they've had multiple termite inspections and multiple professionals telling them that it is deteriorated beyond repair. So you have it's within your purview to make that decision now based on her testimony that everything is deteriorated and it's time to move on.
And that side view by the porte cochere is, I mean, that shows really bad.
Yeah. The other side doesn't show it as well, but that one does.
And to throw another wrench in it is that all the window sizings has been changed. So now you also have another issue, eyesore, with where one consistent siding could potentially solve all those problems if it wasn't, I mean, I get that ideally you would just do the wood and replace it all, but I mean, I don't know.
I would suppose too, if we were to go that route, you could just ask for 2-inch exposure hardy plank, but you'd be spending a whole lot of money to do something like that.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Okay. I was going to ask that question. And Dan, I don't know if you've ever had any kind of
Custom hardy.
Yeah. Well, no, you're just buying more boards, and you have to lap it less. You know, the same way you do shingles that are normally 5-inch exposure, you can do them, less exposure. Yeah. It just costs you that many more shingles.
My preference would be to keep that on those front gables and let the rest of the house be the 4-inch because of how damaged that siding is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and removing the siding isn't going to fix the termite problem. Like, it's a wood frame house, it's wood trusses, like.
Everything's going to have.
Exactly, yeah. So the siding isn't necessarily the cure-all.
Right.
So leaving the gable, it doesn't, you're not now getting more termites because you left the gable.
Right.
I doubt if those are trusses.
No, it's probably
it's
conventionally framed.
framed.
Yeah, it's conventionally framed, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
I mean, there's so many different things going on. From the front, you've got brick, you've got the 2-inch OG, you've got the 4 or 6-inch, you've got the plywood, you got this mishmash that makes it look. Never mind, I'm not going to finish that. You've got the 2 gables here that I do agree really should go back in the OG wood. The rest of it is such a mishmash that I personally think that it would look better and in keeping with the entire neighborhood and the longevity of the house to do the 4-inch hardy board, but that's just a thought.
Make a motion to that effect.
Okay.
When 4 inches,
The 4-inch.
it doesn't come in 6-inch hardy board, does it? Comes in 11.5 inch?
What is it?
I
Well,
don't-
she says 4 and
Yeah.
6.
Yeah, she said 4 or 6.
Right, 4 or 6
Okay.
exposure.
So we don't want to say 4 in the motion.
You want to say 4
Well,
or
I would
6?
like to, I would like to say 4 in the motion to keep it that smaller. Over the gables, I do think that should be the OG. I think that should be maintained as an architectural feature. It's the front of the house. The rest of it is this I don't even know what.
Patchwork.
Patchwork, that's the word. So my motion would be to maintain the OG, the wood, on the 2 front gables
The side gable.
and the side gable, and do a 4-inch lap hardy board where there's other sidings and materials.
Other than the brick.
Other than the brick, leave the brick, yeah.
And
The vinyl can stay on the back of the house all the way to the gable, right?
Or
replace it with a 4-inch.
Or replace it with a 4-inch.
Okay.
All the way up. I wouldn't think that would need to be, I don't know, what are your thoughts, guys?
You don't have to put the
Yeah, just the backside, do the 4-inch hardy all the way up if you're going to replace that. But do the OG on these 3 gables that are visible from the street and treat it for termites.
And does the applicant understand the proposed motion?
I don't know the sizes. Is that the sizes that are being mentioned for the hardywood? Is that what we have up front by the door?
That looks to be a little bit wider. That looks to be maybe a 6 to 8 inch.
Okay.
So the recommendation is for a 4-inch hardy.
4.
I think the 4 really, because you've got a mishmash of heights there, and I think the 4-inch would be much more in keeping with the scale and whatnot. But the OG wood on the 3 gables, 3 front and side gables, 4-inch hardy board exposure where there's the patchwork of wood elsewhere, leaving the brick alone.
We have a second to that motion.
Second.
Is there any other discussion about the motion itself to provide for 4-inch hardy board lap siding for cladding wherever there is wood currently, with the exception that the 3 gables would remain the double OG siding?
And maintain that front board going across there, I would think. This, like that there? Or would that be flat?
No, you don't have to.
Yeah, no, okay, cancel that thought. That was board moment.
Yeah, that was only there to replicate this.
Yeah.
Is there any other discussion on the motion? You understand the motion and you're okay?
So from the roof line down, for the most part, you can put hardy board all the way around, and then except for
Okay. But it has to be 4 inches, right?
4-inch overlap, 4-inch exposure. On the hardy board. Everything in those 3 gables has to be the OG wood and keeping that bent up.
And if you decide to replace the whole east side as well, I'm guessing like we said, that looks like there's some good wood on that side that you may be able to replace and use in your gables.
Yeah.
So that whole east side of
Great
your
idea.
house.
Yeah, you could
You may be able
use
to-
That whole wall, right, salvage all that, you wouldn't even have to buy any of the wood for the most part.
But you don't have to buy any material. The vinyl on the back is probably that same 4-inch exposure. I think that's why she's liking.
Oh, okay. And then in that front, in the front gable?
Yes.
There's like a long piece of metal.
There's a what?
Yes, that's your flashing.
For the roof.
Can we put like a frame thing on there, or like something to cover it, like a
You can just paint it the same color as,
Paint it?
you really do want that because it keeps the water out.
Oh, okay.
You could in fact put something over the flashing, but you'd be poking holes in your flashing all the way through there.
Okay.
You're gonna expose the roof, the little piece of roof that sticks out there, and potentially the room that used to be the porch to water intrusion if you did that.
Just paint it, yeah.
So just paint it the same color as the.
And we have to do this again for the painting?
No, painting, we're not making any comment on.
Yeah, painting doesn't require a design review.
Okay. And I'm trying to remember, my husband had to go to work, but I don't know how to say it. My Spanish and my English is like mixed, but soften fascia. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
Is that something we have to go through, you guys?
To replace it?
Well, it's like open, and there's like gutters, like in we only have like a. Oops.
Sorry.
Your question is whether or not we would say anything about the fascia and or the soffit?
Yeah.
Yes, normally we would. That isn't part of your application right now.
Okay.
If you would prefer us to pass on that, we can amend the motion.
Well, and that's open with the little,
Well,
Gables.
Yeah.
The gables.
Ms. Foster,
have
if
a-
she repaired or replaced the fascia separately, would you be able to administratively approve that request?
Yes, depending on
What?
whether it was a repair or if they're wanting to enclose it.
Yeah,
So
we're
it
not-
looks
we're
like it's an
not-
open eave.
Yeah, you would not enclose it with a vented soffit if that's what you're saying.
Okay, we're not allowed to do that.
Well, Ms.
She would
Farias?
not be able to administratively approve that.
Okay.
Yeah, let me work with you on that separately from this request.
But is that
Because
something?
there are other alternatives to doing that.
Okay.
She may be able to just approve what you want to do without coming back to the full board.
Right.
It just depends on what exactly you want to do. So you'll have to get with her and find out, if she can approve it or if it needs to come back.
Right.
Okay.
But certainly if you need to replace gutters and soffit and all that kind of stuff, you probably need to talk to Emily.
Like I don't know. I know that wood that goes underneath that white part. Like around the house, there's like a lot of pieces just kind of hanging down. We were gonna replace those, and then I did see like because there's so many oak trees and like so much leaves, so we did talk about like a enclosed one, but if that's not allowed.
Well, the other thing is if you're going to maintain gutters, which I assume you are, you can always put a gutter screen on top of the gutters.
Okay.
Keep the leaves out of the gutters so that they don't block up.
Yeah. This is specifically for the siding. The motion is to replace the 3 gables with the double OG.
Yeah.
Replace the wood on the rest of the house. To include or not include the vinyl replacement, okay?
With hard exposure.
With the 4-inch exposure hardy board.
Right.
That's the motion.
All those in favor of the motion
Wait, do we have a
signify by
second?
saying aye. Yeah, we have.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you so much. Sorry we got convoluted on
Is
that.
there like a booklet for?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, and I'll get you a link to that so that you can look that up.
Because I heard about the door too with the other guy, so.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be in contact.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, guys.
Our next case then is HPB 22-105, 731 South Florida Avenue. Final approval requested for replacement windows in the building located at the subject address. Staff report. Are there any conflicts of interest?
All righty.
Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oop,
I'll get this.
bear with me, having technical issues.
Glad you're there, not me.
Happy to pass that wand, huh?
Just controlling us today.
Okay, sorry about that. The subject property is an interior lot of record, which consists of 0.20 acres. The subject building is a 2-story masonry vernacular commercial building with a flat parapet roof, which was constructed circa 1956 and renovated in 1998. Due to several alterations over its history, this building is a non-contributing structure within the Dixieland Historic District. The applicant's request proposes to replace the existing single-hung sash white aluminum windows in the subject building, which are not historic windows. Except for three single windows on the rear elevation of the building, the existing windows are grouped in sets of 2 and 4 and have a colonial-style 6/6 simulated divided light appearance, and the grids are sandwiched between the glass. The proposed replacement windows will be white vinyl picture or fixed style windows without a simulated divided light appearance. And this is just showing the sketch for the rear elevation and the south elevation, which is on the side. This request was evaluated using the standards and guidelines referenced. So staff finds that the request is consistent with the standards, CRA guidelines, and design guidelines in terms of replacement window material, as the proposed replacement windows will not destroy historic materials. However, the proposed replacement window design may adversely affect the character of the historic buildings within the Dixieland Historic District and CRA commercial corridor. While the replacement windows will not have a simulated divided light appearance, which is a traditional feature of fenestration in the Dixieland Historic District, staff finds that the use of a non-divided light window acceptable, as the existing windows do not have dimensional exterior mounted muntins. Staff finds that the proposal is inconsistent with the design guidelines regarding window type, so in other words, fixed versus single hung sash, as well as grouping pattern of the windows. Currently, the building has 39 individual single hung sash windows. The grouping pattern mainly consists of pairs of windows on the front, side, and rear elevation, and 4 openings with 4 windows in each opening on the front elevation. Each of these grouped windows has vertical mullions separating the window units, and because the grouping pattern and mullions will be lost with the replacement window as proposed, staff is unable to support the request as submitted. So staff recommends final approval of the request with the following condition to be reviewed and approved by staff prior to permitting. Use of single hung sash replacement windows matching the dimensions, grouping pattern, and mullions of the existing windows in the building. Replacement windows shall be adequately recessed to provide a shadow line and shall not be flush mounted. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Is there anyone here to represent the owner? If you'd state your name and address for the record.
My name and address as well?
Well, if you're a company, just...
Yeah, my name's Kevin Jones. I'm president of Connor Exteriors and More, Lakeland-based company. I'm representing the property owners because they're out of town. They don't live here. Our request is they're having window issues, so that started the process of let's get a better window in there. 2 of their problems are leaking windows as well as sound. And when we started this process, they brought to us that there was a building down the street, the Colonial Building, which is at 914 South Florida Avenue, and they said they liked that look, which is a recently changed look. I assume that was approved by the historic board.
It did come through for approval, but they've failed their final inspection, so it's a pending code enforcement case.
Okay. My question with that is that they like that design, and Was their process of the windows being replaced, was that brought to your board?
Not to the board, it was a staff level approval.
Okay. Okay. And it was approved, I think you were telling me, Emily, it was with grids, but
Correct.
they didn't put grids in there.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So what they did was they liked that style. That is a colonial building, I guess falls under the same guidelines as this building. They're having water intrusion issues. Where we're finding it is in between the mold bars and the windows. And, we appreciate the fact that you're saying we don't need to have the colonial grid in the window, which as you can see, a colonial grid in this almost makes us look like a jail if you look around the perimeters of it. But so what we're asking the board for is to change these windows and not have operable windows. This is a commercial property that, consistent with a lot of buildings up and down Florida Avenue that don't have operable windows. The operable windows do allow more sound in. The more framing you have, the more metal mullions you have, they will transfer sound through the building. And where they're having issues is with their mullions right now. They've got some water and mold issues now because probably the construction of the window when they replaced it, we don't know when they replaced it, probably 20 years ago. What we were looking at with this design, which was consistent with the colonial building down the street where they removed the entire buildings, both buildings there, where they took out two single hung windows and replaced it with a picture window. And that's what brought the idea of us going this route for this building. So on the south side elevation, we're talking about taking out two, they're called twins, and having a single picture window in there. And then on the front of the building, as you can see, the center will have a single picture window, but on the four on the bookend sides, those will have a double picture window with a mullion in that. So
the dimensions, are the openings on the drawing the same as the openings that are currently there?
Yes.
Okay, so that the opening of the rectangle of the exterior of the window is remaining the same?
Yeah, correct. Okay. Yeah, where it's 100 and each window we're replacing will be 73 inches wide and by 58 inches tall, and that runs consistent on most of the windows in here. They're, the way they built this, other than the three on the rear, these are all the same size openings. So the balance of the picture windows throughout the entire building will be consistent in size, except for the four on the front, where you would have a twin where they're side by side.
This is showing the dimensions 58 by 73. Just is not consistent with the way the picture is drawn. 58 is smaller than 73 and is drawn larger than 73. So I'm not sure which is the incorrect dimension.
So there's 73 and 73. So I think
no, but what I'm saying is
for the first
58 by 73, 58 by 73.
Yeah.
So 58 is taller than 73 is wide. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't think the sketch is to scale.
Is it really 73 for the two windows and really 58 vertical?
Yes. Yeah, your height of your windows are 58 inches.
So somebody just didn't depict it well at all. Okay.
Yeah, you can see that if you were to combine the two windows, they would be wider than they are taller. It's just the sketch is just.
The sketches are way out of whack with it.
And that's what the openings, the actual openings would be exactly the same.
Okay. And the top of the openings, the way they exist, is that equivalent to where the bottom of both of those awnings is?
Can you repeat that?
The top of the windows for the lower four windows and the upper four windows, is the top of the window, the header of the window, equivalent to where the bottom of the awning is, or does it go up into the awning?
From this picture, you can see that the top of the window runs right at the bottom of the awning on the lower level. Yeah, they're consistent. They're consistent, and when we expedited this project to order all the windows, we were surprisingly, they are very consistent in size, within a 1/4 inch, except for the 3 on the rear.
Can the mullions and muntins be added to the new windows to give it this other look?
He's saying
They don't want the look.
They don't want that look.
Don't want that.
They
And
want
what was,
picture windows.
but the other building wanted this and we declined it and they did it anyway and now they're code enforcement.
Yes.
How people are referencing it.
I would be inclined to keep with the original because
Except these are replacement windows. Those are not the original windows. That's the problem.
Now, if I can ask you a question, with the Colonial building, what was their or what was the approval? Was it approval for picture windows?
It was approval for picture windows, fixed windows with an exterior applied grid to match the previous windows.
So their scheme was to remove two of the side-by-sides and then come back in with a picture window. And then that was permitted.
With the exterior grids, which they did not apply.
Yeah. So the only question on that other building is the grids, which is fine with me. I mean, obviously we're not here to, the grid is not, has already been recommended by the board or by administrative, that it's not a concern here. What we're wanting to do is put picture windows in here consistent with what the city has already approved with another building here. And I have a picture of that if you'd like it. Okay.
If the board would like to see that.
Doesn't have to.
So you're not opposed to putting the raised grid on the windows?
The grids, we're opposed to that, yeah.
They want picture windows. No grid, no mullions, no muntins.
Well,
except for the mullion that separates the two pieces.
On the front windows where they're almost 150 inches wide, we'll have to have 2 in there.
Right.
And then have a mullion.
And what is the proposed mullion there?
That is an aluminum mullion.
What, 1.5 inches?
It's a 2x4.
2x4, okay. So 2-inch exposed.
You're proposing essentially standard aluminum storefront windows.
It'll have that appearance, but it's a typical storefront like you see the tire store down the street, or a lot of them, the printing office, Fletcher's. That's a 40 sash, which is an aluminum frame window.
It's similar to a storefront, but not exactly a storefront.
Yeah, this is a vinyl framed replacement window.
Vinyl frame, okay.
Yeah, and the reason why we're, vinyl is kind of a go-to because it absorbs sound. Doesn't allow the sound to pass through it as well, as aluminum does.
Emily, we are correct. It's a non-contributing building, right?
Yes, correct.
What makes it non-contributing?
It's age.
I would say the age and the alterations that were made in approximately 1998.
What alteration do we?
I don't have specifics on what were made other than the windows.
Yeah, the windows were replaced in 98.
Well, and architecturally, the building doesn't do anything, no matter where you were to build that thing. It's just a stucco box, so
it's a box.
It doesn't contribute to the architectural history of our
frame vernacular, 4 square. No.
So anyway, that's just
it's mid-century modern.
And as such, I
have no problem with picture windows.
I have no problem with say this picture window concept, but I like the way the windows are currently vertically broken up across the facade.
So 4 picture windows as opposed to 2.
Right, 4 instead of 2.
Yeah.
And I don't considering the design of this building, I don't care if it has a grid or not. I don't think the grid contributes anything.
Right, it does not.
To the architecture of the building. So I have no problem with just picture window concept, but keeping the
Keeping
scale.
4 openings.
The 4 openings.
And the 2 openings wherever there were 2.
Right, where there are
Okay.
2, yeah. That's simple as that.
Yeah.
And Mr. Jones,
That would enhance the building.
sorry, I have a question for our applicant. What is the width dimension of the mullion that would be used to divide the 2?
2 inches by 4 inches.
2 inches width is what you'd see,
Right.
Yeah.
looking straight on. 4 inches is the depth.
And what you'll see is you're not going to have a 2-inch exposure because there's a flange on the window that'll
Right.
cover that.
Okay.
So you're just going to basically see 2 windows together.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I like the 4 openings, the defined, and the 2 up here. Yeah, I'd be okay without the mullions one, the grid.
Or the rail.
Right, if it was the 4 openings on the bottom, the 4 and the 2 and the 4 up top, because it being non-contributing. Question, Emily, the other building, because I do want the consistency here. The other building, was that contributing, non-contributing? What?
Non-contributing.
Non-contributing.
Right. But they did propose to put grid on, or did propose
They agreed to put
picture
grid, but
windows,
they did not put.
agreed to put buttons on there, and then they didn't do it correctly.
Are we, Jared, are we gonna have a struggle here?
Well, if the question is, are we bound by precedent, and from that case, I think the answer is no. I mean, every structure is different, and every decision that the board makes is based on the evidence presented to the board at that time. So this example never came to the board, so I can't imagine how the board would be bound by it in any way.
And it's a different construction, it's brick, it has a totally different look,
It's 2-story, has
you know,
awnings.
so.
Right,
it-
okay.
It would be analyzed in a different manner.
Okay.
Is there anyone from the general public that wanted to speak on this? No? I'd entertain a motion.
Can I interject again?
Yes.
What we're asking is just for some consistency.
Right.
And this building was changed and approved to go from 2 windows side by side to 1 large picture window. We are in essence asking the same thing. You know, we're asking the same thing for a non-conforming structure. The grid pattern obviously is, you know, that's between the other, that was supposed to be done in permitting and it wasn't done. You know, that's a separate. We just like the consistency of what is, you know, the city of Lakeland is doing to buildings. And, you know, because we saw that was what precipitated, you know, their ideas of what they want to do to this building. You know, so that's what we're asking, is some consistency there.
This building is different, has a different architectural feel to it.
Yeah.
And we are reacting specifically to this building, which I think is what we
Are saying.
And I think, yeah.
need to do. In my
And
mind.
only 2-inch versus what is probably here right now is a 4-inch in between. What, I'm sorry, what is that called? The
mullion.
That's the mullion,
That's
and
the
then
mullion.
That's
the
the mullion.
grid is the mutton?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
I will learn these one day. So the mullions here are 4-inch.
The previously existing ones probably are because of the framing of the window. Probably each of them is actually a 2-inch piece, and by the time you put 2 of them
Put 2
together,
together.
it effectively looks like.
A mull bar is required for structural purposes for wind loads.
Now,
You know, when you bring 2 windows together.
they had a legitimate mullion on the south elevation.
I mean, I would hate to lose a 4-inch width to give only a 2-inch that's really hidden.
It's the only one is that way.
Well, the application is for picture windows. It's not for single hung windows.
Correct.
So,
Right.
so it can be treated differently and will look different.
But the consistency you're asking for is in the window, the type of window, not the mullion. You don't want consistency in us requesting that the mullion.
The idea is,
piece.
the whole premise behind this is,
Yeah, but it's for
is
It's just, I don't know.
to create less sound in the building because it is right on top of Florida
None of the
Avenue.
others show up.
And an operable window just inherently allows more sound in there. So we're looking at, this is a commercial building. We'd like to put, solid picture windows. There's no egress requirements when it comes to commercial buildings, when it comes to windows. So we were just, wanted to have a look that was going to be highly efficient, not leak, because you have leaking in mold, where you bring two windows together. They've got mold in the building now. They've got to remediate the and like I said, we like the style of the building down the street where, the city already approved taking out two windows side by side and allowing a picture in there.
Are you going to be able to meet the impact resistance that is required by the code with a picture window?
Yes, yeah, they meet design pressure. Design pressure ratings for our region are 35, and these will be 0.50.
Okay.
Yeah, that's listed on the building permit when we submit those windows.
Dan, if he does, like you were saying, or does 2 and 2 rather than 4, how do you feel about the width of that center one between them? I mean,
It's going to be thinner than what the original is. It's going to give it a more contemporary look. I mean,
which might not be bad.
Which isn't, I'm not bothered with.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the wide mullions, I think, are more typical of colonial windows and such. And this is not a colonial building.
Right.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
I have only one question, which won't affect the motion, I think, but because they look the same and they're drawn the same, 58, 73, 72, so 146 wide. But what's interesting in the photo is the existing windows. There's a foregrid on the left that doesn't exist on the right, and there's a foregrid on the second floor that doesn't exist on the right.
For some reason, the picture on Google Maps
yeah.
is photoshopped, and I don't know why. It's the same.
They are the same windows.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's photoshopped, though. I mean, I guess they are, but even on Google Maps, it's wrong.
It's a shift with the Google camera.
It's got the
It's like a
grid
camera,
on the top right.
Either something went wonky with the camera, like you said, or it's been retouched.
Go ahead with your motion.
Sure would have been nice if they would have photoshopped the building with the windows they want.
I'd love to have that software. If I heard you correctly, there is inconsistency with these front windows.
Yeah.
The group of 4 on the bottom are 2 different size windows. The 2 center windows in there are about 6 inches smaller. Yeah, so there's they were just probably what they did was they got a bargain on some windows.
Yeah, okay.
Because they made them consistent on top, but they didn't do it on the bottom.
Well, the overall dimension on the top looks to be a little wider than the dimension on the bottom, so that may be why it's that way.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
It appears
If you look at it closely, the 4 windows on the top are wider than the 4 windows on the bottom overall width.
Oh, wow, look at that.
It has that appearance, and I believe it's because of the opening of the front entryway compared to the 73-inch wide below it. But on our measurements,
The outsides.
this is probably a Google Street View picture.
Yeah. Well, if I'm correct, I'm looking at the sign Florida Blue, and it looks like it aligns with the right-hand side of the upper window, at least the left side of it does. But with the lower window, it's another 6 inches to a foot bigger. You see? And that's why it looks like the openings are different, and yet your dimensions are reflecting that they're all the same. It doesn't really matter to me that they're all the same, but it just looks odd.
And when we looked at the front, we felt that, you know, the having 2 picture windows in each one of those 4 openings would definitely provide more consistency than what it has now.
Yes.
Because they're broken up on the bottom down there.
I think, Dan, you were about to make a motion that it be 4s and 2s, right?
I don't really care at this point.
Somebody's got to make a motion before we can move.
I'm hearing others that they're comfortable with the 2 and 2.
Yeah.
I mean.
You know, if the majority is comfortable with 2 and 2, then I'm for the majority.
All right, somebody's got to make a motion.
Boy, Dan's being easy today.
Yes,
Okay.
he is.
Yeah,
I was going to say, we're not requesting any muntins or anything like that.
Right.
No divided
Right.
light
Picture
appearance.
windows.
Unless you.
Not the buttons.
okay, the proposal is different from the staff recommendation.
Correct.
Correct.
So who's making the motion? Anybody? Are we going to postpone it? What are we going to do?
Okay,
I will move approval of the replacement windows as submitted by the applicant.
Second.
Do you want to say with the exception that they not be flush mounted?
Yeah.
Because having a shadow line is what I think Emily was after also.
They will have
Yeah,
that.
well, this
They're
is a
recessed
masonry
in.
building, so with the except that the windows shall be installed set back from the face of the building to create a shadow line.
They will.
All right. Do I have a second to that motion? All right. Is there any discussion on the motion? We're essentially approving it as applied. And are you doing the rear windows as well? I understand.
Yes.
Okay. And are there north-facing windows as well?
There is no north-facing windows.
It's a blank wall.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Emily, can you put up the picture of the back, or the west elevation, please? The photo?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oops.
Sorry.
There it is.
It's on the left.
On the left.
Okay, was equating that with the drawing, okay, I'm good,
Yeah.
thank you. So the motion is to approve per his application.
Right.
It was already seconded.
Okay, and seconded.
Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. Thank you for our patience.
Thank you for your time today.
Yes.
I bet you'll Photoshop the next one, won't you?
We have before us then,
14 South Florida Avenue coming back now.
our next application is HPB 22-106, 1130 West Marjorie Street. Do we have any, it's final approval requested for a new driveway at the front of the subject property. Do we have any conflicts of interest?
No.
Staff report, please.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject property is an interior lot of record that is 0.15 acres in size. The property was previously vacant, but a new single-family house is currently under construction. The design and site plan for the new house was approved by the Design Review Committee with conditions in December 2020. The subject property has an improved alley located at the rear of the lot. According to the design guidelines for new residential development, as well as the approved site plan, 2 parking spaces will be constructed at the rear of the subject property with alley access. The request proposes to construct a driveway at the western side of the front yard of the subject property. The driveway is proposed to be concrete in material, and the dimensions will be 10 feet wide by 25 feet long. The driveway will require a new curb cut at the street and a concrete apron with a maximum width of 16 feet, which includes apron flares of 3 feet each. This request was evaluated using the standards and guidelines referenced here. So narrow driveways are commonly found on historic residential properties, typically located on one side of the house and often connect to a detached garage at the rear of the lot or to a portico share attached to the house. However, for single-family residential infill construction or new construction on a lot with access to an improved alley, it has been the practice of the committee and staff to locate a new driveway and/or parking area at the rear of the lot connecting to the alley in order to provide the 2 off-street parking spaces necessary for this use as required by the city's land development code. This is done to mitigate the need for an additional curb cut at the street, as well as to maintain the front yard setting of the lot. The intent of the LDC standards pertaining to off-street parking in the historic districts is to allow for only 1 driveway or parking area, not 2 or more, as well as to discourage parking in the front yard. The subject property was designed and approved with a parking area at the rear of the lot, which is accessible from the improved alley, and therefore staff finds that an additional driveway placed in the front yard is not necessary as a requirement of the subject property's single-family use. However, as single car width driveways exist historically on properties adjacent to the subject property, staff finds that the requested driveway does not adversely affect the design character of the Lake Hunter Terrace Historic District. To reduce any visual impacts of the proposed new driveway, staff recommends the installation of a ribbon driveway instead of a solid concrete driveway, which meets the design guidelines for driveways for infill single-family residential construction. So staff recommends final approval of the request with the condition that a ribbon driveway be installed instead of a solid driveway. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am. By ribbon driveway, are you implying that there's landscape between the 2 ribbons, or brick, or nothing?
Nothing, just grass, dirt.
Okay. Is there anyone here representing the owner?
Thank you all for listening to this case. Essentially, my main concern was that we have a lot of properties in the historic district, and we love what you guys do because it's maintaining the historic district historic, right?
Right.
In this particular case, this property, which is a beautiful property, we're introducing to Lake Hunter Terrace, we're starting to work there and investing in that area as well. Was brought up to our attention by our realtors, hey, you're going to have some difficult time bringing tenants or future people buying this property if you just go through the rear. And I ventured to put my vehicle through it, scratched it, started bringing some options of like, what else could we do? Especially, and I would invite all of you to do this at nighttime. It's very, very creepy type of situation going on in there. And I appreciate you guys taking our understanding and allowing at least that, whatever it's called, ribbon. Ribbon driveway. But I guess, do you have any objection with that, or?
No, one thing that was mentioned though is.
If you could give your name and address for the.
My name is Tony of Platinum Construction.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm short.
That's fine.
Go ahead.
The rear alley is not improved. It's improved probably.
This is from yesterday.
It's overgrown. There's potholes. It's used mainly for dump trucks to get back to, or dumpster trucks get back there to pick up trash.
Right.
And it's just not appealing. What they're going to be, what they put into construction just doesn't justify what that road looks like in the back. So that's why the owner is requesting if we have a second driveway up front.
Yeah. She's got a picture of it.
That was yesterday. And,
yeah, that's
just the thought of like, me bringing my grandkids and say, let's say I purchased this home at night and going through that, it'll be like.
Sir, I'm sorry.
Just the thought of like me visualizing having my grandkids in my car, purchasing this home and going through that at nighttime will freak me out, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I'm not, but anyways.
And it's overgrown, so when you drive by there, your car, branches and trees, tree limbs definitely hit your car. I think it hit your car.
It did.
Emily, just a point of information, do you know if this alley is slated to be improved and paved in the current plans under Public Works?
From what I've been told by Public Works, it is a quote-unquote improved alley. And they, when Mr. Tony told me about the overgrowth, I did report that, and there should have been a Public Works crew that should have gone out to clean it up, to trim back some of those bushes. I don't know how much of that is on private property.
Too. It doesn't look like a paved alley because of the grass growing right down through the middle.
I could make another inquiry.
Okay.
Semi-improved.
That's
Attempted to be improved.
All right.
All right.
So anyways, just for like standards and equal standards, Emily, if you could slide that to the right. There's a property that was actually new construction in Dixieland area. This is on Hunter Street. And it's a suggestion to all of you. This particular home, they did do a driveway on the back of the house. This one has not one, but if you keep sliding, 2 driveways in the front of the house. There's the other one. And then if you slide it again, that's the back alley in that. It has a street sign, speed limit, beautifully like, wide and open, and then they still allow 2 driveways in the front. So just for standard purposes, I just would like to point that out that if.
But you don't have an objection to the ribbon?
No, I guess not at this point.
Okay.
But I just want to bring the point out to you guys of why we did this, because it's kind of like
Big
a little.
All right. Are there any comments from the general public?
Does this ribbon have to be a specific material? Can it be concrete or can we use crushed concrete?
It needs.
In the middle, it has to be grass?
I'll verify the land development code requirements. I believe it does need to be solid concrete.
Solid concrete. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
The ribbons need to be solid concrete.
Yes, sir.
What you put
paver.
between them is, I think, still up for debate, because I have seen everything from, like you say, river rock, crushed concrete in between, brick in between. So, it's, and I've seen people come back in like they did on my house and fill in with concrete between the 2 ribbons. So, I mean, that was prior to it being designated a historic district, though.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Well,
We didn't
and
do
I'm
it.
seeing lots of front street,
I got gravel in mine.
parking, driveways. So I'm not sure. I can't tell which one's yours, though.
Unless you have something else to say, I'll entertain a motion.
No,
Okay.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Entertain a motion from the board.
So,
I move
Oh, maybe that goes to them.
we approve it as per staff design.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll move us into a vote. All those in favor of proceeding in accord with staff recommendations, allowing the ribbon strip driveway, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Thank you so much. The exact design of that when you get through, because I assume you want your sidewalk to go to the second ribbon, is subject to just administrative approval.
Yes, sir. Understood.
Okay. And the apron would still be, according to city standards, a full concrete apron with it doesn't ribbon all the way out to the curb.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're understanding one another. Thank you. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, Miss Emily.
Thanks.
Okay, we have one more on the table, and that person does not appear to be here. Can we just move to postpone without even listening to it, or?
So there are some conditions that staff has recommended on this particular request. And I think it's been precedent that if the applicant is not here to basically signify that they understand the conditions and agree to them, that we would postpone the request.
That we would postpone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of my request. I mean, I would
Sure.
like to hear from the applicant if the board's going to impose.
Yeah, to make sure that if we're going to go with staff recommendation, that they've had a chance to answer
Make sure
staff
they're okay
recommendation.
with it
Okay.
and whatnot.
So
Wow.
I'll just let the chair rule that we're going to postpone this one to next month, or do we need a motion to that effect?
I believe we need a motion.
We normally do motion.
Okay.
Motion to postpone.
Is there a second? Okay. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Thank you so much. We're going to take a 10-minute break, if you don't mind. Oh, no, let's take a 5-minute break and then come back in for our annual review retreat.
Retreat in Mun Park.
Because I don't know about the rest of you, but John has to take the 5-minute break.
I think I turned this off too soon.
I am going to take my break as well. And is this door?
Yes, you can go out this door, but you can't come back in.
Okay, we're on
Bill
the,
guy,
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the design review committee.
so moved. I'll move adjournment.
I thought we already did.
We need a second.
We didn't officially do it.
Second.
All
Third.
those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Thank you. Emily, would you like to start our annual review?
Yes, so every year, of course, we give an annual review of the previous year just to provide you with some statistics and just some good information about the projects that you approved. And it's good information to get out to the public to let the public know what the board does. So, and as you know, we were supposed to have this at our last month's meeting just in honor of Historic Preservation Month, but I don't think we had a quorum, or we had barely a quorum. Okay. So during the 2021 calendar year, we had 264 design review projects. Out of those projects, 216 or 82% of the projects were minor in scope and were reviewed at the staff level. 48 of those projects were major in scope and were reviewed by the design review committee. 146 projects affected contributing buildings, while 119 projects involved non-contributing and vacant properties. And looking at the distribution of projects throughout the historic districts, Dixieland and South Lake Morton had the most projects, while Lake Hunter Terrace had the least. So, and this is just a running comparison of the number of HPB projects for the past several years. We kind of experienced a peak in 2018 and kind of had another small rise just this past year.
I was actually surprised to see Biltmore Cumberland was third.
Yes, yeah.
That is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've always considered it to be just an extension of South Lake Morton because it's, right there.
So some more stats for you. 70% or 184 projects reviewed were approved. 29% or 76 projects were approved with conditions, and 4 projects were either voided or withdrawn. There was also one project that remains in applied status. So we're still waiting to hear back from that applicant on moving forward with that design review project. Notably, no projects were denied last year. Most major projects, or 85% of them, only took 1 DRC meeting for approval, and 6 major review projects took 2 meetings for resolution. No projects required 3 or more meetings. So we do try to get our applicants through the process as quickly as possible. So these are just a list of preservation achievements that our program completed last year. As you know, we amended the design guidelines for historic properties with respect to historic windows. That was done in April of last year. We received a $50,000 state grant to assist with phase 1 of the Historic Districts Resurvey project. We completed our annual CLG report and received certification that Lakeland is in good standing. We continue to partner with Historic Lakeland, of course, our advocacy group for the annual Historic Preservation Awards and any other advocacy type projects. We continue to partner with the Lakeland Library in teaching an interactive class for researching house history, historic house history, using the Lakeland History Room resources. Staff also assisted Florida Southern College in educating students about the architectural history of Lakeland. And we continue to support and assist the Lakeland History and Culture Center at the Lakeland Library main branch. So for this year and next year, the program's initiatives include continuing with the Munn Park Committee, which we are going to adjourn and meet after this presentation. Regulatory amendments, I'm embarrassed to say that these have been on my plate for a few years now, but I'm going to get the bylaws amendments, which have already been reviewed by Jared, to you all for review and comment, and hopefully we can address that at our July board meeting. And then there are some minor changes to the Land Development Code, Article 11, which is our historic preservation ordinance, essentially. There's some minor, like I said, amendments to that set of regulations that I'd like to address over the next calendar year. Of course, we've got our Historic District Resurvey project coming up. Phase 1 of that project will cover South and East Lake Morton. And as I mentioned, we are beginning the selection phase of a consultant to perform that work for us. And also, exciting news, hopefully, as far as I hope COVID stays at bay, because we are planning to resume our historic home workshop next year in October. So and that's always a really good educational event for residents and historic property owners. So I'm excited to hopefully bring that back. Fingers crossed.
Can I ask a question about your bullet 3? We know that there are going to be resurveys for the other districts. Are any of the others going to be paired up similar to the way these two are, East and South Lake Morton?
Yes. Phase 2, if I'm remembering correctly, I scheduled Munn Park and Dixieland to be paired.
Okay.
Because Dixieland has a tremendous amount of properties.
Sure.
And then the third phase will be Lake Hunter Terrace, Biltmore Cumberland, and Beacon Hill, because those are smaller districts.
Yeah, but they're not connected to each other at all. Right?
They're not.
So, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Biltmore wasn't connected with these two. Okay.
Yeah, it would seem like Biltmore.
South and East Lake Morton have a ton of properties as well, so we were trying to kind of space it out to manage costs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know how many properties are in East and South Lake Morton?
I've got that number, I just don't have it off the
I know
top of my head.
there's 700 bungalows in South Lake Morton, because that was a stat
south.
just south that Jim Edwards gave us when he did the survey.
Right, and that doesn't include the other architectural styles, that's just bungalows.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
For some reason,
For that,
1400
Emily,
sticks in my mind.
you've
for
already been
Dixieland.
through you sent out the request for proposals
Yes.
and received four back. Could you send us the RFQ?
Yes.
So I'd like to read that.
Okay, yes.
See
I
what
will
their
do that.
marching orders are so far.
Yeah, and there's a complete scope of work detailed in that RFP, so I will email that to
Do
you.
that, please.
RFQ.
Request for qualifications.
Okay.
Yeah, we used a request for proposal, so an RFP.
Okay.
Technically, if you're selecting architects, it has to be an RFQ, but that's neither here nor there.
Was it an RFP or an RFQ?
RFP, because we were
Okay.
mainly looking for cultural resource management firms, not necessarily architects. But if an architecture firm has that ability, they could submit a bid
Yeah.
or
Okay.
proposal.
The difference is, do you ask for their proposal before or after?
How much money you got?
Yeah. What's it going to cost us? Okay. Go ahead. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem. I was just writing a note to remember to send the RFP out.
And if it's just a link to the RFQ, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just a PDF document, so I can, and actually I think it's,
Yeah, the link is perfect, obviously.
yeah, it's on the city's website because it was a public document, but I'll send you the link so you can find it easily.
Yeah, if you want to just, either way. Thank you.
Yep. And then this is just the last slide. So additional and future initiatives, obviously we want to continue with the resurvey of the historic districts. That will require, going after additional state grants and asking for funding from the city commission to do that. So the project is contingent on those budgetary concerns. And then I'm asking you all for suggestions of what you would like to see in the future for the preservation program.
I've got a question on that too then. Assuming everything works out with our committee and the Parks and Rec, and then ultimately the public hearing, the actual cost of doing the work at Munn Park then would be underwritten as a separate capital improvement by the city?
I would assume so, but
okay.
I don't feel comfortable on answering that.
It wouldn't have to come under a budget that you would create, then it would be Parks and Rec, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Because I know one of the suggestions was a new building on the north side of the park.
Right, right.
Okay.
Concerning future initiatives, I would like to look into a tax abatement or tax exemption program. A lot of other cities in Florida with preservation programs have the ability, actually there's legislation at the state level that allows municipalities to do a tax exemption program for rehabilitation to historic properties. So basically, when you improve a historic property, the amount of improvements that would increase your property taxes would be frozen for 10 years. So that you don't have to pay that additional added amount. And in the 9th and 10th year, it would step up to the then amount. But it basically provides a little bit of tax savings to historic property owners, which we don't have a lot of incentives right now to offer. So.
Well, another thing that I'd like to look into, and it's something that came out in the Lake Morton's, or South Lake Morton, well, no, South and East Lake Morton Neighborhood Association's plan, was still looking ahead to sidewalks being continuous and all alleys paved. And that's going to affect us across all 6 districts. And so I would like to say that we ought to be looking at that in all 6 districts at some point in the future. Maybe it's not staff-wise able to be done immediately, but I'm thinking we ought to be talking about it with Public Works as to how we move forward with that, because they have a program that provides money for sidewalks every year. They have a program that provides money for repaving alleys. And what we're saying is that there are still a bunch of alleys that are grass, like the one we saw today looks mostly grass.
Right.
And there are a lot of sidewalks that are discontinuous, and so if you're out trying to walk through a neighborhood, you can't do it without getting into the street.
Okay. Yeah, and like you said, with the example that we saw today, I think there's a valid concern in, repaving some of those alleys. I know there's at least one alley in Dixieland that has been contentious.
Yes.
And I know some residents would like to see it paved and improved. So yeah, I think that I'd be willing, or I could definitely ask our public works staff if we can set up some sort of meeting or some, set forth some discussion about those items.
I know of at least one alley in the Dixieland neighborhood that you get down the alley, and when you're coming to the terminus of the alley where it tees, it's a left turn only, even though the alley goes the other direction as well. And I've actually forced it down that way, probably breaking the law, but it didn't say one way. It just says, turn.
Okay.
So I don't know, what the intention was there, but the only inhibition is really the guy who owns the property right there has his fence right up against the right-of-way corner.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Another thing I would like to look at is something I have had numerous phone calls and city conversations, and that's dogs and dumpsters with the infill in the Garden District. We are getting dumpsters dumped at 4 and 5 a.m. Dumpsters are right up next to other houses. It's jarring, it's loud, it is a residential area, and I am not opposed to the infill. We've got the 91 bedroom apartments next to us. We're getting 32 apartments, 16 one bedroom, 16 two bedrooms. On the other side, we're gonna have a dumpster behind us. We fought the dumping of the previous one to the north of us, 6, 7, 8 a.m. There is absolutely no reason that in a residential area that we need to be dumping these dumpsters at 4 and 5 a.m. and waking everybody up. The other thing is, if we're going to infill with these apartments and they're going to allow pets, before they get their certificate of occupancy, we need doggy stations. Walking through dog poop and having to yell at people for allowing their dogs to pee on my garbage cans. I shouldn't have to be fighting this hard. It has slowed down since they put the signs about fines, and they've put the 3 of the doggy stations up. But you know, I'm stepping in dog poop in front of my house to put my garbage can out. I shouldn't have to. And the only way that code enforcement can take care of it is to have someone physically out there watching when it happens. That is never going to happen, and so it's going to continue. And we need these companies who are putting these buildings in that are going to have animals to be responsible and take care of this, including, you know, monitoring the entire street, because yeah, I'm tired of my lawn being killed off. There's already halfway is, and you know, et cetera. So dumpsters 9 a.m. or later, please.
Yeah, and I know there's been a lot of growing pains in the Garden District, and you know, with the growth that we wanted to see, but I think there's been some unintended consequences of that growth. I think our city's development review team is getting better at, you know, making sure that dumpsters are appropriately placed away from neighboring residences, existing residences, and I think the noise issue and the doggy stations are also issues that can be addressed at that stage. I don't think it's necessarily a preservation issue, but it is quality of life in our historic districts. So.
Exactly, and if we're going to allow these infill projects, we need to also take care of who is already there and the quality of life, because it's 5:10 a.m. on Friday, it's 4 a.m. on Mondays, it's loud, and originally they were going to put it right up across the street from us, and I fought it like crazy, not knowing there was another house all the way at the back where they put it. It was behind the forest, so it's bad.
Okay, Yep, I've got it noted down. Thank you.
I think the same could be said for street cleaning, because those guys are loud early in the morning as well. And I don't mean to get on the city for doing the services that they've taken upon themselves to be obligated to do, but they got to recognize these are residential areas.
And I do know that from personal experience, because I've seen the truck actually sit in the parking lot of Florida Southern. I think they sit there and wait until a certain time to start, because they get out there before.
So you hear it, I'm sure.
Yeah, when I take my walks, I see it.
And the thing is there's one thing about street cleaning, you can do it really anytime, but I've had them come down 2 and 3 times a week on our street, and it's because it is the walk path from Florida Southern College down to the library and the museum. So I can understand why they're coming that often, but it's just odd that it's at the earliest hours of the morning.
Yeah.
The city has an ordinance, I think, that
Noise ordinance.
contractors and such and yard men cannot start before 7 in the morning.
Right.
So they should kind of apply those standards to themselves.
And I believe they do.
They have exempted themselves in the actual noise ordinance.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's not honest.
No.
Okay. Duly noted. Thank you. Are there any other?
How do we politely say that to our city fathers? So that it comes down as a directive to those departments.
I live here too, and I hear it. And in fact, there's a lot of construction going on my street right now. There's 4 houses being built within, adjacent to me. And 6 o'clock this morning, I've heard nail guns and hammers, and that's pretty much every day.
Noise ordinance is 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., I believe.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I've been reading it a little bit.
Yeah, my wife won't let me go out after 8 in the evening.
You have a good wife, thank you.
We were 8 to 8 in the city that I lived in before I moved here. So
I've been replacing that siding for a month and a half now. It's taken me that long to get rid of the termites.
So circling back a little bit, and this was a conversation we had probably a year ago about public education and outreach efforts, with particular regard to windows and replacement windows and trying to encourage the retaining and restoring of original windows. The city's website, the historic preservation page on the city's website is being revamped currently to be more user-friendly and more, just provide a lot more information to the public. We have a new staff member, Cindy Glover, who is our outreach specialist, and she's done great work in helping to revamp that page. So please check it out.
Good.
And let me know what you think of it.
Thank you.
Are there any other suggestions for future initiatives? Are we?
Phase 2 and 3, are we expecting that to be 2023 and 2024?
It'll probably be 2024 and 2026.
Oh, okay.
Just because of the grant cycle, how the grant cycle
So
works.
it's every other year?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And does that mean the work gets done in 2024 or the application goes in 2024?
The application would go in 2023 and the work would be done in 2024.
Okay. And the same with the other one in 2025 and 2026? Okay.
So work app.
Yeah.
Did the coffee get made or?
Well, I'm no barista, but I did attempt to start a pot here in the conference room next, and there's creamer and sugar, and assuming it's brewing, I don't know how the machine works because I did not visually confirm coffee coming through.
Oh no!
I went across the hallway, and they are also heating a pot up over there just as a backup plan.
Good deal. Thank you, sir.
There will be coffee.
Thank you all for your patience this morning. I know it was a long meeting.
Well, I let that first one just get out of hand, and I apologize to the board for doing that. Yeah,
I don't think you have a choice.
No.
That's pretty basic things of people spending a lot of money on property and then finding out
that they did it wrong.
Right, and there's a lot of hoops they're going through that seem to be very discouraging. Too.
And it reflects on us because it happens, even though we didn't make it happen,
Well, you see that in so many cases where if something gets pointed to as an example to allow them to do something going forward. So even if the board didn't approve it, or if the board approves an appeal based on circumstances, you're not technically creating precedent, but that doesn't mean that people aren't going to point to it and say, well, look, and because you were asking for stairs to a blank wall. Well, if you had approved that, you would have just created an example of stairs to a blank wall that would then be, as put in front of the board as an example in a future case. So it's a fine line. You want to balance the cost and you don't want to impose burdens onto property owners, but we've got design guidelines that.
Right. And an appeal shouldn't be, well, they did it. You should at least come back with some sort of more information, more solutions, more anything other than just, well, here's some examples of that's my appeal.
Other things that are just as lousy.
Issues and solutions.
Yes.
Bring us solutions.
Yeah.
And if cost is your problem, I said it in the first time it showed up here, the cheapest thing is to leave it the way it is.
Right.
Yeah. I do feel sorry for the lady that had the termite problem, because I was having a termite problem on my little garage that I didn't even have to pull a permit for, because I'm not replacing 25% of the cost of the garage. But it is a real issue for wood in Florida. And you do
I think they just bought it in January, so they kind of inherited a lot of issues, and it hasn't changed. I live across the street, so I know it's looked at, and nothing's changed on it for 5 years. So
that double drop siding is not easy to get. You can get it through Joyner Lumber, but that's about the only place you can get it.
Luckily, we're only two streets.
It's 2 drops per sheet, right?
Right, it's a 5.5 inch board. The exposure is really only 5 inches. And it does have 2 drops of OG curve.
Well, if we're finished with our annual review, I think we can adjourn and go into our Munn Park Committee
And take a.
and let our communications person know
Want to take a
that,
5-minute coffee break?
yes, please.
Motion to adjourn?
We don't even have to have that.
Yeah, we don't have.
Informational. Okay.